Welcome, everyone, to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Jared Mello, and I'm the Shepherd of Black Sheep. I see there's a good chunk of people here in the live chat already. Welcome to Tim and Brenda and Kat. And who else? Murasaki, welcome. Today is going to be interesting because the person a lot of people used to think was a major suspect, Luke Daley. I'm going to say his name because he actually broke a silence today. He was interviewed. Him and his mother both were interviewed, and there's actually some big news about it too because they released his Range Rover. So is that something they're going to do if they think he's really guilty? I don't think so. So I think to me, that is big news. Remnant, welcome. And yeah, I did see the video where Brian Etten had Savannah, Tommaso, and Annie. They were all in front of the house having an emotional moment there. I mean, at the very least, they weren't being asked questions. I did still kind of think the cameras were a little bit intrusive there too. But that's just me. So Tim, I guess I'll go over this, who he is. So that night of the SWAT raid, right? So Luke Daley and his mother were two of the people that were detained and questioned that night. He was the owner of the Range Rover that also everyone was thinking, this is huge news, this is him. So many people are thinking, that was him on the Porsche cam, that was him on the Nest cam. Me personally, I don't think it was. I don't think he was. Now, we're going to watch this interview, and I bet because he seems a little bit nervous, people are going to say, oh, he's guilty. And I don't think so. I think what's happened to him is he's been in trouble with the law before. He's an addict. And this is how it works for those of you who don't know. If you have a record and you've been caught up with the law, you become the low-hanging fruit for local law enforcement. You just do. Ask me how I know that. Ask me how I know. Because I've experienced it myself. Once you're on their radar, they'll come to you first. So the people they target, in my experience, if you have a record and if you seem poor. If you have a beat up car, there's no faster way to get pulled over by police but to have a beat up car. Peach, welcome. George is right on time today. Holy mackerel. Yeah, it was all part of my journey, Kat, but it absolutely did happen. That's for sure. Danielle, welcome. And I guess Coco, welcome. And I guess I'll tell you all, we'll probably go into my birthday today. My birthday will be at midnight Eastern, March 3rd. So I'll probably still be streaming at that point. Double Agent, welcome. Poor PJ, poor Jared. But I'm no victim. Remember that. Let's see. I made some bad choices, but they get lazy. Like sometimes law enforcement, they just go for the low-hanging fruit, and they do. Victoria, welcome. Thank you, Danielle. Well, we got 90 minutes about. So let's see. Let's see what Luke Daley has to say for himself. Thank you, Charlene. Is that how you pronounce that? Charlene Unplugged or Charlene? Sounds good to me, Tim. Because I may or may not be live tomorrow too. We'll see. We'll see how the day goes. But here we are. Now this is Brianna. Let's see her last name. Brianna Whitney. That's who sits down here with Luke Daley.
Many people have believed that you are the person on the surveillance video, the abductor, the masked person. Is that you?
It's not me. I don't see the resemblance of it looking like me, but absolutely not. I have nothing to do with this case.
nothing to do with it. Do you have any idea who is involved in the abduction?
I don't. If I did, I would happily tell.
Now, another note here. It's pretty ballsy of Luke Daley to even have this interview. To me, that is also not the actions of someone who's guilty. I think if you're guilty, you're going to want to speak as little as possible, especially to media, especially being posted to YouTube. That's just me, though. That's what I would say. I'd say if you're guilty, you want to say as few words as possible about the entire thing. But if you're innocent, you want to clear your name. And maybe you go and you say yes to interviews like this. Thank you all for the birthday wishes. It'll be midnight Eastern. This guy here, hello there, don't forget. This is Luke Daley. This is one of the guys that got caught up in that SWAT raid. Remember that night a couple weeks ago now? Might even 3 weeks ago that the SWAT raid happened. So it was him and his mother and one other person. They were all detained for questioning. And then the Range Rover got taken into custody, but they also gave it back. And to me, since they gave it back, that's actually a pretty big thing. Neither late nor early, Phil Bradley, just on time, like me. Thank you very much, Cher, for the birthday wishes. Got it, like I said, 97 minutes to my birthday. Hello there, animal. Let's see what he has to say.
FBI, police, anything. I mean, I, like everyone else, just want Nancy to come home and be safe. But that being said, I have nothing to do with this case, and that's it.
Explain to me what happened on the night you were detained, where you're with your car. How did that unfold in your eyes?
So I was driving home. I noticed 2 sheriff vehicles following me. They pulled me over at the Culvers right there, asked me to get out of the car, didn't tell me what it was about. So they had me cuffed in the back of a cop car, detained. I was asking, like, what am I being detained for? And they wouldn't tell me anything. They just said that the detectives would be there to talk to me. And
so I will be 41 years old, for those who are asking. Now, to me also, I don't know how tall Luke Daley is. I think the bandmate looks closer to the person on the Nest Cam than Luke Daley here. But that's just me. Because look at his body shape here compared to the other guy. And that's the one, that AI video we went over the other night.
Once I saw like FBI and all the other cars start pulling in, I'm like, oh, this is probably about the Guthrie case. I'm like, this should be easy. Like, I have nothing to do with this, so it should be not a big deal to clear my name and move on. But the whole time during the questioning, didn't really seem like more of like a fishing expedition for them to try to get me to say something, because all the dates I was telling them where I was, things like that. I'm like, all you'd have to do is look at my phone and see my location. It was nowhere near anywhere or have any connection to this. But still, it was tough, like being there. Like, I mean, I don't trust the FBI to the extent that I'm like thinking that there's pressure on this case and they want to find the person. So like the whole time while I'm sitting in the back of the cop car, I'm like panicking, thinking that I'm going to be framed for this, or they're trying to pin this on me somehow.
Did they tell you what led them to you? I mean, something made them believe they needed to talk to you about it. What was that?
I asked them. They didn't tell me any information about that.
So again, this is Luke Daley. All right, now there's all sorts of speculation about how he was connected to the family. There was a lot of people saying, oh, he's going out with someone who's related to Savannah Guthrie. And that turns out not to be true. But him and his mother and one other person, they were questioned on that night of the FBI SWAT raids. And his Range Rover was the one that was put into evidence. Or I'm not sure what the official terminology was. They took it. I'm not sure they consider that impounding it, but they had it. But they also recently gave it back. but there was all sorts of speculation about it. That was also the car that they put up that sheet when they took things out. So people were really speculating a lot of things about that Range Rover, but he's gotten it back. So that's that. This is this guy. He's here. I don't think he had to do this, but he did. Now, Carlos, he's another person that was detained. The very first person who was detained. He also spoke out. So did his lawyer. Someone in the chat just said Dominic did too, the bandmate. I have not seen that yet, if so. So if someone can tell me where that was, let me know.
And I have thought of any type of reason why they could have come after me. But there's nothing. And I think that's why they didn't tell me.
Were you in the area of the home at the time? Like,
as far as I know, his attorney's not here. His attorney's not here. The mother gets interviewed after this. I don't think there's an attorney there for either one of them. Which, again, if you were guilty, that's insane to do an interview without your lawyer present, right?
like that overnight, or would it have been something like we've tracked this person near the
Well,
abduction
I
scene?
live near her house, but I mean, I didn't even know that until after the fact. Like, I barely just learned where her actual house was in relation to mine. So I didn't even know.
Had you ever met her?
No.
Did you know who she was?
I knew who she was because my mother was following the case. But in terms of other than that, I would just go off what my mother was telling me.
And so how long were you detained for?
Probably maybe 4 or 5 hours.
In the back of that car the whole time? And they searched your Range Rover extensively?
Yeah, they searched Range Rover. They towed my Range Rover. Did all DNA testing or whatever, and then gave it back to me.
Yeah, he does seem nervous, probably because he's not used to being on camera like this, for one. For two, he's probably struggled with addiction, which also means he probably has anxiety or depression anyway. Thirdly, you were public enemy number one for a very brief bit there, and all sorts of people in the true crime space were basically saying, yep, definitely did it. People were convinced he did it. So many people were showing his picture up there with the masked person from the porch. Yep, it's absolutely him. I guarantee it. So if you're him, especially if you're innocent, that's got to suck. So I would also say that also puts some pressure on you too. And some people would say, well, you wouldn't be nervous unless you're guilty, which is just not true. Some people are going to be guilty, or excuse me, some people are going to have anxiety either way. And it's the same thing when someone gaslights you a little bit. They'll say, well, if someone's lying or saying something that's not true about you, it won't bother you. But that's not really how it goes either, right? If you're being gaslit by a narcissistic person and they're telling you all sorts of things about yourself that are not true, it can still bother you, especially if you're not used to that kind of thing. So again, I don't know if you can take too much from just the tone. We have to see how it unfolds, though.
Took my cell phone. I've had no way to get a hold of anyone, which is probably a good thing because everyone's looking at me like I'm this person that I'm not. So it's been rough.
You got your car back
Yes.
in rough condition, or was it okay?
Well, when I went to pick it up, like, it wouldn't start. They, I guess they drained the battery down, and it was just covered in the whatever white substance that they use for testing.
So this is why, if I was his lawyer, I would tell him never to do this, because just in my chat, people are saying, yep, it's definitely him. I see his jawline. He's a piece of garbage. He's a piece of trash. And it's like, dude, like, take it easy.
But yeah, then I got it started up, and it wasn't, luckily it wasn't damaged in terms of like repairs or anything. But
So when they released you, what did they say? They say you're free? Did they say never mind? I mean, what was the verbiage there from them?
they had just told me that they were still at my house, so I couldn't go home, but they drove me somewhere near the house and just dropped me off. I was like, well, I don't have a phone. How am I supposed to figure out when I can go back to the house? And they basically said, you're just going to have to figure that out. So, I mean, I waited just where they dropped me off at for maybe an hour or so. I had a friend that lived near the area, and I walked over there. They weren't home. So I was just waiting, like basically just on their patio. And then it got to the point where I'm like, well, they should be done by now. I walked back to my house, and this was like the worst part for me, is getting there and seeing the house torn up. But the worst part was my mom.
And there's the other thing. So as someone mentioned before, Brian Hetton did interview his lawyer today. We're going to watch that after we watch his mother get interviewed. But if you're his lawyer, I mean, if you thought he was guilty, and especially if you thought he was guilty, would you ever tell him to do this interview? You would never tell him that, especially because you know his demeanor as well. You know he's probably going to seem like he has anxiety. So if you're the lawyer and you want what's best for your client, you're not going to tell your client to do something that is going to put them in a bad position, right? Or something that's going to incriminate them further. So to me, I think the lawyer thinks he didn't do it. That's what I think.
Not being there and her being elderly and having AFib and things like that, I'm thinking the worst. Like, I see her car's here, but she's not there, and I don't have my phone to get a hold of her. So I'm wondering what happened, if I need to start calling hospitals or what the deal was. But luckily, I guess she went to one of the neighbors, but I didn't find that out until the next day.
Right. You were detained and released, but you've said it. Your face, your name, it's everywhere online.
And by the way, when there's tons of comments, people are, did you read this comment, read this comment? Well, the only real way to make sure I see a comment, if you send a super chat, I'll see your comment then for sure, or a super sticker.
People still believe you were either involved or did this. What's that been like for you to have your name, your picture, even a past mugshot all over the internet associated with this case?
I mean, for me, it's terrible. It's hard to go anywhere, and the hard part is they're making all these assumptions based on things that have absolutely no relevance, and they're just bringing up my past, which I haven't. I mean, I do have a past, but nothing violent or anything like that. All my past has just been involved with using drugs.
You can have your phone. That doesn't prove guilt either, though. And again, the lawyer knows that. The lawyer's not dumb. So if he really thought he was guilty, do you think he would tell him to do this? Yes or no? If you're the lawyer and you think he's guilty, do you think they would still let him do this interview? Press 1, yes, the lawyer is going to let him be guilty and do the interview. Or 2, no, the lawyer must think he's innocent.
And I haven't been in that life for over 2 years now. So all the things that they're bringing up, I guess it's public record, but it would have came out if it wasn't for all these people speculating and doing things like that. So now people that had no idea about my past, so I've done like a good job of working past it and not having anything to do with it. So them doing that now is kind of just reopening this whole speculation and make me out to look like this bad person, which I'm not.
And it's not just been you. People have found, records of an alleged girlfriend of yours. There's been a lot of rumors swirling around. What do you want to say about those rumors, about you, about her, about, everybody that people have looked at and said, well, they could do this?
Yeah, first of all, that's not my girlfriend. I barely knew that girl, and I was arrested with her on a completely different circumstance over a year ago. I haven't talked to her since, and I guess they're just going off of the arrest.
So I think this person, he's had like an addict history and maybe some drug dealing history. I'd have to look it up to be sure, but that's, I think, what has happened with him in the past.
That I was arrested with her, but I hardly know her and don't associate with her. But
I got a super chat here. Public service super chat, for that matter. Thank you very much, Mongoose. Please, everyone, be careful on the ice. It is slippery. I just got home from the ER with a broken wrist. Oh, no. That's not very good. Well, I guess I'm glad that's all it was. But I'm very sorry you have a broken wrist. And thank you very much for the super chat, though. So everyone be careful out there on the ice.
In terms of everything else, I mean, all the speculation is just going off of, I don't even know if people really believe it, but online it just seems like they're pushing this.
I got another super chat here from Tom Sanders. He shakes his head no when talking in the affirmative. I'll have to pay attention to see if he's doing that. What it would mean? What do you think it means, though? I guess that's the real thing, right? What does it mean? But thank you very much, Tom, for the super chat. I appreciate you.
Narrative and trying to make connections with things that are, I don't know, basically like circumstantial, like saying my eyelashes match the guy in the ski mask picture, which I'm sure like if you could use anyone's picture and find similarities.
And you don't recognize the person on that in that footage?
No, I don't. But in terms of all this, like I said, they're comparing my face to this. They're talking about my Range Rover, which I didn't even buy until after she was reported missing.
It was a new car, yeah? For you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're talking about another car that was towed off my property. That car wasn't an accident, has nothing to do with this. It wasn't towed in relation to this case. It was being told by the insurance company to assume if it was totaled or not. So that had nothing to do with the case. There's no evidence.
So there's several people in the chat who thinks he's completely guilty. I mean, here's the thing. If I was guilty myself of something, I think the last thing I would do is do an interview like this. And I would certainly run things by my lawyer, and I would say, like, how do I protect myself in this case? Now, maybe there's a chance you say, even if you are guilty, you say, you know what, I'm going to do this interview anyway to try to clear my name. Maybe. I would caution everyone to not jump to too many conclusions one way or the other.
To point towards me other than speculation.
You really have no idea what led them to you in this case?
Absolutely not.
Still a mystery to you?
Yes, and I would love to find out.
Were you dealing mostly with sheriff's deputies or FBI agents when you were detained?
So that's another question there that he answered, which is they don't know why. He doesn't know why they targeted him anyway. So the FBI and local law enforcement didn't tell him what led them to him. Now, Brian Etten is going to talk about that with his lawyer in one of the things we're going to go over next. But as of right now, he doesn't know. He doesn't know the reason.
When I was detained by the sheriffs, but in terms of all the questioning was done by the FBI.
What would you like to say to both PCSD and the FBI?
Basically what I told them before, if there's anything, I'm happy to help. If there actually was something real that I could help them with, but like I said, they have my phone. They went through my phone. So, I mean, if it was anything real, they could look through that and hope clear my name. But in terms of the collateral damages, this being part of it, there's not really any type of way. There's no going back from this.
For your whole family, too. I mean, your mom has had to go through this, too. As a family, how has this made you guys feel collectively together to kind of be in this public shock, this public scrutiny?
It all just seems like a nightmare. I mean, it doesn't seem real, and it's just been, we're all it's just been a nightmare.
So me personally, I think his shape is a little bit different than the person on the Nest Cam. But again, I could be wrong. But that's my gut impression of it as of now, just in terms of the look. Now, if you're judging him by his anxiety level, you would say, oh, yeah, he's definitely guilty then, right? But I don't think that could be the only reason for his anxiety. It could just be his normal temperament. Could be other things factoring into that as well. But also, while you're here, please remember to like the video. Likes are free, and likes are for my spirit animal, the Night Owl. And come say hello to the flock of black sheep here in the live chat. Awesome group of people here. Very generous, good vibes, and also subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And as you've seen also, especially when there's a lot of people in the chat, super chats are the best way to get my attention and get a question answered. Super stickers, great way to support the channel. And so are channel memberships as well. And occasionally, the way to get a free membership when people gift them is to make sure you're active on the channel. That's how YouTube gives them out.
I know my mom, she has like problem with stress, and like she was doing good before this. After this, she's been a lot more stressed. It's been hard. I'll let her speak to how it's affected her, but I mean, in terms of collectively as a family, it's been a nightmare.
You know, what's your message for Nancy Guthrie's family?
I mean, I like everyone else. I want to see her come home. I want the actual suspect to be found. I think it's really unfair to them to give them false hope by going off whatever they went off to have this huge investigation and raid happen. To me, it's like giving them false hope that they had a suspect and then it was nothing. And I'm not the first person either, so I think it's wrong in that sense.
This is your first interview since you've been detained. What's your hope in putting your voice out there now that people will get from this interview?
I mean, for my personal interest, I would just say just not to go off speculation of everything you hear on the internet and kind of like the hive mind mentality that someone says something and then they just go off of it based on no evidence, no truth. But I mean, in terms of like moving forward, I just want to be cleared, have actual verification that I was cleared by the FBI and sheriff, whoever else.
Have they officially cleared you?
I don't date. This is just going off what I've heard, but I guess I've been cleared, but they don't close any case, I guess, because it's still ongoing. But I mean, I know personally there's nothing else that they're gonna come across that points towards me. So
Unequivocally, you are not the person, you are not involved.
Absolutely, 100%.
Is there anything else you want to clear up that people may have said, that you've seen, that you feel that you have the opportunity now to address?
Nothing particular is coming to mind right now. Obviously, I'm nervous. This is, like I said, my first interview, and I mean, I'm not trying to get any more attention from this. I just want to put it out there for me that I had nothing to do with this, and I'm hoping that the truth will come out, whatever that may be. I have no idea.
I appreciate your time. Chris, do you have anything that you want Luke to address or add? Luke, is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you want to address or talk about while you're here? Just want to make sure.
I wonder, so did he just turn his head to Chris? Is Chris the name of his lawyer? We'll find out for sure when I listen to the Brian Netton interview, but
that you get your opportunity to say anything you want to.
I just want to say again that I hope that she's safe. I hope they find her, and I just want to move on with my life and not have any. I mean, it's been
okay. Yeah, so that's the name of his lawyer. Chris Scalepi is the name of Luke Daley's lawyer. So Brianna there just said, "Hey, Chris, anything else here?" So his lawyer's there. Which I was going to say, it would be pretty ridiculous for his lawyer to not be there.
hard. Like, I can't go anywhere. Everyone gives me dirty looks and they see me in my car. Like, I would assume that they, like, I don't know, people are just think I'm like this person. And it's been hard, like, leaving, going anywhere, doing anything. So I'd like to be able to go about my life and not have this shadow of doubt casted over me.
Luke is your son?
Yeah.
Well, before we go into his mother's here, this is his mother. What do you think about Luke Daley there from that interview? I'll give you my thoughts before I give you a poll question. If you're going based on his temperament and you think, well, people with anxiety are guilty, you would think, or people who are nervous are guilty, you'd be like, oh yeah, that he's guilty, clear as day, right? But I would say, I don't think that's the only reason to be nervous, because let's face it here. You're dealing with what a lot of people have said is an incompetent local law enforcement. People get convicted of murder that didn't do it. Not as rare as you would think. So it is kind of a nerve-wracking situation. I mean, there's been people on death row who have been innocent but got convicted and executed for that matter. So I think the nerves are more understandable. But that being said, we'll make it really easy for you all. Press 1, Luke Daley, you think, no, he's guilty. Press 2, no, not guilty, just nervous for other reasons. So 1, guilty, 2, not guilty. So this guy is Luke Daley. He's one of the guys that was detained during the night of the FBI SWAT raids. His Range Rover was towed. So I'm looking through here. It looks like most people say not guilty, but there's a few people saying guilty. Yeah. He very well could be, Lynn. I'm glad you said that. He could be a victim. I think, honestly, this is something that, moving forward, now that social media is not new, I think it is important for us to kind of be careful, especially if we have bigger platforms, how we talk about things and what it can do to people on the receiving end. Yeah, like it's a powerful thing going viral. Like, look at the cases of the Coldplay kiss cam. Look at the Phillies girl that took a ball away from somebody. Like, those things. Now, granted, in both of those cases, they did things that weren't the best. But when that's the case, what's the proper response? I don't know the answer to that. So, yeah, okay. So it looks like most people say not guilty, to which I would agree. I would think, I just don't think I would agree to the interview if I was guilty. That's just my opinion. Yeah, Kat likes Coldplay because she's a Brit like them. So is Maureen. Is Maureen here? So this, by the way, is Luke Daley's mother.
You were Nancy Guthrie's neighbor, pretty close by.
I didn't realize that.
You didn't know that?
No.
So did you not know
I
Nancy?
knew it after everything happened. But otherwise, who'd heard of her?
You hadn't met her?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So you hear that she is abducted. She goes missing. And I assume your first thought when you hear this is, oh my gosh, somebody, I mean, this is crazy and it's nearby. Were you following the story, following the case?
Totally. At that point, to see if they could ever find her, you know. And, Savannah grew up in Arizona and, her family. And we watched.
Well, and for sake of the arguments, I'm going to tell you what, Jared, you don't have a criminal mind. Well, I've had a record in the past, so I'm familiar with how people like that would think. I would think what I would do if I committed a crime of sorts. Well, how would I be? I probably wouldn't be willing to put myself in that situation. But again, it'd be clever. It'd be clever to be totally guilty and do that. Ted Bundy would do that. That's what Ted Bundy did. Ted Bundy would go up there with whoever it was, the law enforcement officer. I guess it was a sheriff in that case. And he'd be like, see, I'm innocent. I promise you. And he'd be like really confident and smooth with it though, even though he was 100% guilty. I mean, Luke Daley here doesn't have a fraction of the Ted Bundy charisma though, right? So for him to make that kind of bold maneuver, that would be something else.
Her on TV, so it's sort of like, she comes into our living room and tells us what's going on. So it's, it's very emotional for me. I mean, I'm old and I'm not used to this kind of stuff at all. But I have a lot of empathy and pray. I don't have a lot of hope but that the family continues on and it's, huge loss for all of us, actually.
Oh, it completely affects the community, a community you're part of. So when you first start hearing about it, I imagine there's a lot of upset and fear, concern.
Yes, yes. And they were searching, you know, I live on this street, and then they were searching a street a little closer and a little farther out, excuse me. And, you know, it's just weird to have these people and people standing in front of my house wanting to talk, mostly news people wanting to.
Yeah, I mean, the media don't.
I didn't talk to those people at all. We just.
So tell me what happened when this all ends up at your home. Your home ends up becoming part of this story.
Yeah, well, people were coming.
So, by the way, this is Brianna Whitney interviewing Luke Daley and his mother here. So check out Brianna Whitney's channel. She's a local true crime person in Arizona.
To the door, and I wasn't necessarily answering it. They might not have even had a camera or anything. And then this one, you know, late afternoon when they came in the big SWAT vehicles, pulled into my driveway and said they wanted to, you know, they wanted to see anything that could link anything. I said, well, yeah, go ahead. I mean, so they were there for about 6 hours. And I was in the SWAT vehicle, and they went through my house and went through everything and tore everything, broke my, if the door was locked, they would break it open to go see what was in there. There really wasn't anything in there, but, you know, it was pretty upsetting.
Well, and it's one thing to come to you and say, do you have any video or anything like that? It's another to detain you and search your house with a search warrant. Did they tell you why?
I guess I assumed, you know, because I live close by or something.
Apollonia, just because that happens doesn't mean it's the majority of the time it happens. But she said, oh, you guys must never have seen where people who have done interviews get arrested later. Yeah, it's not impossible. I just said Ted Bundy has done it, for crying out loud. But just because it's happened doesn't mean something happens the majority of the time.
But I just said I'd do anything to, if we could find some clues that might help, but I don't think there's going to be anything in here, but go ahead and look. I mean, I didn't say you can't look. I didn't even think. It was kind of, you know, late in the day. I'm so sorry. I'll turn that off. I get a lot of phone calls now, a lot of messages from people. How are you doing, Mary? So, yeah, and then I just decided I was much better off going to Phoenix to be with Matt and the grandkids and his wife and everything.
So when they detained you, did you know that this was related to also them investigating Luke?
No.
You had no idea?
No, I wasn't thinking this was about Luke. You know, I found out it was also about Luke, but initially, no, I was thinking it was all about Nancy Guthrie and finding her and whatnot. So, because I was thinking, I don't even think Luke probably ever watched the news and even saw Savannah on the news. I mean, I did.
Right. So when did you learn that, you know, your detainment was related to Luke's detainment in this case?
When? I'm not exactly sure when, because.
So I will say this also, but knowing his temperament, if you're Luke Daley's lawyer, knowing that's his temperament, I would think it's a pretty risky maneuver to say yes to an interview like this. Just knowing that he can sound nervous like that, I would think, why are you going to do that? Why are you going to put yourself in unnecessary harm? Because I think if he didn't do this, I didn't do this interview, I mean, I kind of think people were kind of moving on from him. And I think people were more thinking about the bandmate, like that AI video the other day. But I don't know. What do you think, Chap?
Honestly, during this time, I was really emotional, and there were lots of information coming in, and so I don't remember exactly the time, but I know that in retrospect, I know all this stuff that it did, but initially I didn't think of it being Luke as part of this because I knew it wasn't something that Luke would be involved in any way, and he wasn't. So, yeah.
And when you learned that, was there any thought that could he have been involved?
No, I didn't think he ever could have been involved. Not at all. No.
So you and Luke were not involved in anything in this case.
Right, except seeing it on TV and acting and some of the
So it's interesting to me that she was detained. Like, what possibly could have been the reason she was detained and questioned? It's like, you really think she was part of it somehow? Was she part of a mastermind or something? I don't know. So chat, what do you think? Why do you think this woman was also detained and questioned? Luke Daley's mother. Do you have any answers? I don't even have an answer to give you for a multiple choice, honestly.
consequences of, we want to search this. And I'm like, okay, if it helps find, because this was early on when we thought differently about.
Did they take anything specific from your home?
Did they take anything? I can't think of anything they took. I can't think of anything.
And did they
I
eventually?
might think of something later.
That's
I hate to say
fine.
it, but
Yeah.
Did
Did they eventually tell you that they were searching your home in relation to this case, or did you this whole time think they're just looking to see if I have any surveillance video or anything like that? Like, where did that shift happen?
They didn't give me a lot of information, but I just assumed.
So the common answer seems to be just because she lives in the same house as Luke Daley. And maybe that's enough, right? So maybe you would know, like, okay, where was your son on this day at this time? And to see if they have matching stories, right?
And I said, well, if it's something that might help us find her, then go for it. If you think there's anything in here, but I don't think there is. So, yeah.
Did you ever suspect that Luke might know who was involved?
No.
Not at all.
No.
This seems to be like jump cut in the editing here. Or is it just me that thinks that? It looks like there's like jump cuts or something. But by the way, there's 4,500 people here. We need some more likes. I'm in likes withdrawal. Likes are for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl. And for the flock of black sheep in the comments. They like likes as well. And come in and say hello. We've got a great live chat here.
Mm-mm.
So you guys were basically both detained for hours. You were questioned. Your property gone through. And then released, but with not a lot of explanation as to why?
Well, I guess they just said they could do, I didn't want to stop if it might be helpful. But I had no idea when. I thought they'd maybe come in and look around for an hour or something, poke around and, but. Yeah.
So you have not been back at your home since staying there since this?
I just got back.
What's that like?
It's really good to be back here. I was up in Phoenix with my kids and grandkids, which is wonderful. But, we built our home and lived there a long time. And Matt's grown up in it. Luke's grown up in it. They're, so it's home. So I love being there. I'm glad to be back. And it's nice to know that Luke.
My God, if you're the defense lawyer listening to Luke and now her talk, you're like, oh God. What have I done? What have I done letting them be in front of the camera like this? Not to make light of it, but still, the defense lawyer in me would be like, oh boy, this is a lot.
Luke's there and, with me.
I mean, in the days since you guys were detained, it's not been an easy road for any of you, Luke especially. I mean, people still believe he is the person on the video camera. They still believe he's the person who abducted Nancy Guthrie. His face is out there. His name, your name has been out there. How, as a family, have you emotionally dealt with that, even though you've been released?
Well, things will just pop up and I'll just feel a lot more like even sitting here talking about it. It is very emotional. And part of me just wants to say goodbye to all this chapter. So hopefully this interview will help kind of have some closure for me and for everybody else who's who's felt the impact, because this has been huge impact, not just here. I mean, all the family from Rhode Island called right away and said, wow, look what's happening. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't really do Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. I'm not the right demographic. I don't spend my time doing that,
But Luke's on it. I mean, he is younger, and that is part of him, and he's had to see his face out there.
So this is interesting, ND. I'm glad you mentioned this here. Where is it? This is something to pay attention to out there. Oh. I will never forget Ted Bundy's female coworker who he was really close to would say, Ted was always worried about my safety and told me to always lock my doors. What does that tell you? Ted Bundy, the serial killer, was still looking out for his female coworkers. How about that? Interesting. Just something to pay attention to.
And that's really a shame, I think. But I was shocked about all of that. That was an education for me in terms of a way of communicating and things people like to do, like younger people, not older people like me.
Yeah. So, what do you say to people who have also brought up Luke's past and kind of associated, oh, well, he's had a past with criminal activity, therefore this could be a part of this. What do you say to those people?
Well, I don't know. They don't really ask me that. My friends, I mean, I have a really good group of friends here in Tucson. And I mean, they never really questioned me about that stuff. And if they thought they didn't, come up and say, well, could he have done this? And they didn't, probably out of respect. Sure. Because they don't know. And I didn't know what all was going on sometimes, but I knew this wasn't, Luke's had other issues, but this is not the kind of thing that he had a problem with. And he's doing well now. And we're all kind of in the recovery mode, if you know what I mean, trying to get our lives back and get back to normal again and all that stuff.
For your family, it's been tough. For the Guthrie family, it's been tough. I mean, what is your thought process trying to relate to the Guthries themselves going through this, but in the most awful way, in that they've lost Nancy and there's still no answers?
Really, mostly I pray. Yeah.
And they've asked for prayers.
They've asked for prayers. And sometimes I can listen to Savannah's, she comes on and talks often. You guys all know that probably. And I've watched a little bit, but I can't watch too much because it just makes me want to cry. It's just so sad. And the longer it goes on, then the more hope is lost,
For you guys in this neighborhood, it's a very tight knit. It's a beautiful neighborhood. It's quiet. It's quaint. To have this kind of onslaught, the media spectacle, and then to become where you are, does that change your perception of how safe home feels?
And honestly, that's a good case about the Iran thing. This might have come out because some people were thinking, well, most of the attention is on the Iran and US and Israel striking them. So maybe they were hoping this would kind of fly under the radar, maybe.
Well, I feel safe in my home now. I didn't for a while. That's why I went to Phoenix. I have wonderful neighbors. They live right next door, and we're in this little cul-de-sac together. And that's where the SWAT team came up the cul-de-sac and stuff. But I stayed with them some of the time. A couple nights I stayed over at David and Margaret's house because I was uncomfortable, So, yeah, I just never thought in my life who would imagine something like this? It was so much sadness. And I want to say global, but certainly our whole country, but it goes farther than that probably.
Oh, it really does.
The way media is today. I grew up in a different era, as you know. So it's amazing how things spread.
What do you want to say to the Guthrie family, especially for you and your son, if there was any possibility they still believed you guys could be involved? What do you want to say to the Guthries?
Savannah, I am just very, very sad and sorry about Nancy. And I pray for you and your family that you heal, that you can go back to your normal place of life and resume and build with your family and your children and your husband. But I know it's going to be a challenge, but I'm going to keep praying. Mm-hmm.
And you want them to know no involvement from you and Luke.
No involvement from Luke and I, no.
Well, before we go into the Brian
Luke is your son?
Yes.
Before we go into the Brian Nitton interview,
Reason why they could have come after me.
What do you think about that? What do you think about Luke and his mother being interviewed there? You think that was a good call, bad call? So me personally, I don't tend to think Luke did it, but even so, I don't know if I would have suggested he do that. As if I was his defense lawyer, I would say, you know what? Less is more. Why put yourself out there like that? I get maybe if you're truly innocent, you want to put yourself out there to make it like to clear your name. But even so, if I'm his defense lawyer, I say, you know what? No. Let people forget about you instead of giving them 15 minutes of footage to hyper-analyze. Right? That's what I would say if I was his defense lawyer. But what do you all think about it? You think that was a good move by him and his mother? Not a good move? I'm curious. So we'll do it. So type 1 if you think, no, it was a good move by Luke and his mother to do that interview with Brianna. 2, no, they definitely shouldn't have done that because now it's going to give all these channels a chance to hyperanalyze every little second. So 1 for good move, 2 for not so good. Hello there, Polka Dot. Yeah, so a good amount of people think it was a good move too. Interesting. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So a bunch of people think it was a good idea. Interesting. Improve yourself. Welcome. Didn't notice you were here.
That should authorities...
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. I really, really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. Today is day 30 in the search for Nancy Guthrie. It is Monday. I'm in Nancy's neighborhood right now. Her house is actually right here. And I was telling you guys in another episode, you know, there are certain times when you're covering this where sort of the emotion of it really hits you. And sometimes I get so wrapped up in the investigation and trying to chase down leads. But then one day something will happen and you'll kind of just realize just how awful this whole thing is on an emotional level. And today was one of those days, and it's because Savannah Guthrie, Nancy's daughter, of course, and her sister Annie Guthrie and Annie's husband, Tommaso, they came here to Nancy's house.
So the final vote was more people thought it was a bad idea. I think it was like 22 or 23 to 14 thought it was a good idea.
And they left some flowers and a card, and it's the first time that we've seen them all here at the house. And I'm going to show you guys. I mean, it was just a really, really emotional moment. So I'll get into that in this episode. Also, I was just over at the lawyer's office for the man whose house, the second raid that happened, the one where I got very, very close. He has a lawyer now. This is the one that was like 2 miles from here. Remember where the SWAT.
And so I agree with the number 2. Even if I think he's innocent, just knowing his temperament, I wouldn't want to give him that opportunity to look bad. That's just me. If I'm a defense lawyer, I think less is more. I get what maybe they were trying to do, but to me, it could easily backfire. That's what I say.
Team was there and everything. Luke Daley. And I was just talking to his lawyer about what is happening behind the scenes. There was apparently this federal search warrant. What has he been able to figure out about why his client may have been tied into all this? He says, by the way, that his client has absolutely nothing to do with the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. Interesting, though, I said, well, does your client or his mom, because remember it was his mom's house, have they ever met Nancy Guthrie? Do they know anything about her? And the mom actually had met her, and he tells that story. But I'm going to get into all of that. Really, really interesting conversation. And the latest on the investigation. Again, it's now day 30 in this episode of Brian Enton Investigates.
So here's the thing. It wasn't a hard-hitting interview. But at the same time, like I said, if you just know your client's temperament, I would just say no. Like, no. Just like if you know he's going to sound nervous like that, don't even put yourself in harm's way. That's what I would say.
Hey guys, all right, so I'm outside Nancy's house, and I was telling you it's really the first time that we have seen Savannah Guthrie and her family here, at least publicly. There was that one day, you guys remember I told you that there was that SUV that showed up that went into the garage. We weren't able to see who got out. I do believe it was family then too, but this time they weren't hiding in any way and came to see the sort of the flowers and there's flowers and candles and cards that people have left for Nancy. I called it a memorial earlier, and then I thought about it. I guess that would just be for someone who's passed away. And of course, we don't know that Nancy has passed away. We hope she's still alive. So I guess I probably shouldn't call it a memorial. But they clearly wanted to see it for themselves. And it was just a News Nation crew who was here and one other network. And I'm glad no one really tried to ask any questions or anything, which I'm glad about. I'm glad they got to just have their moment. So I want to play for you that whole kind of moment. And I think it's important, again, just because it shows what they're going through and kind of reminds all of us the emotional impact this has had on them and why this is just such a sad case when you think about 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie missing and what her family is going through. So I just want to play you this moment, the whole raw thing, just so you can see it for yourself.
Now, for those of you who don't know, this is what, Tommaso, Annie. Looks like Annie's got a different hair color here. Last we saw of her, she was blonde. Now she's brunette. And that's Savannah to the right there. Kind of an interesting thing here, this very public display. Well, this is Tommaso, not Cameron, by the way. So it's Annie's husband. Yeah, and this just reminds you of the humanity of it all, right?
So yeah, I mean, just so sad to see that, and you could clearly hear. I think it was Annie who was weeping, and you just imagine. I mean, again, Nancy's lived here since the 1970s. This is the house that they grew up in, so you just imagine what this must be like for them to be back here in this moment. And you saw they left behind a card. The card said, "Mama, we miss you so much. Our hearts are broken. We are standing on ash, on scored earth. But Mom, though we are surrounded by so much darkness and uncertainty, our love burns bright. We love you, Mommy. We miss you so much, our best friend." And then Savannah later posted on Instagram this post with a picture of all the flowers. And there's so many flowers out here now. I mean, they've really grown over the last week or so. One of the neighbors has actually come out and watered them too. And Savannah posted, "We feel the love and prayers from our neighbors, from the Tucson community, and from around the country. Please don't stop praying and hoping with us. Bring her home." So just really emotional to see them out here. Kind of switching over into the...
And you know what? I was looking through Annie's pictures from before. For some reason, I thought her hair was lighter before, but no, it's just always been brunette. It's just darker here. I think she got touched up on.
Latest with the investigation, though, I've told you guys that there's been sort of a shuffling of resources. A lot of the FBI agents have gone back to Phoenix. With the Pima County Sheriff's Office, we know that there's some detectives working on the case full time, and there's this task force now that's detectives and FBI working together, but it's not all the detectives like it was before, it's been 30 days now. That's naturally going to happen, although it's still a very active investigation. People have asked me, do I think it's a cold case? I don't think it's a cold case, and I do think we're going to see a resolution here. It might just not be as soon as we hoped. You guys remember there was that raid with the SWAT team and the FBI that happened just 2 miles from Nancy's house a couple of weeks ago. It was a Friday night. It was the one where I got into the perimeter. It was really intense. And we actually thought this was finally going to be it because there was so much law enforcement, and they served this federal search warrant at this home. And then they also pulled over a man just like a few blocks away in that Range Rover. His name was Luke Daley. And then they impounded the Range.
As far as I know, this is the first time Brian Ettins mentioned his name, Luke Daley. But do you remember this night? I think it was a Saturday night, maybe. And we thought they had him with all the works they pulled out there, the cars, the medical examiners. I thought at first I was skeptical, but then all the action convinced me. And then it turned into nothing. So I almost thought they found something with all the hubbub that was out that night. Do you remember that?
Range Rover, and then it was his mom's house that they searched. Well, I'm learning now more about what happened behind the scenes. I actually just interviewed Luke Daley, now has a lawyer, who says he's totally innocent, kind of similar to Carlos. Remember the first raid that happened in Rio Rico? He also got a lawyer. They say that they actually have nothing to do with Nancy Guthrie. Same thing happening here. But I learned some interesting things from the lawyer about what he has learned.
Yeah, so Friday the 13th, not Saturday. So I guess it went into Saturday, though, right? Because it was after midnight our time it was happening. But it began Friday the 13th.
About exactly what went down. And they really searched that house. They really searched the Range Rover, what they may have been looking for. And also one interaction he says that his client did have with Nancy Guthrie, his client's mom, actually, years ago. So this is my conversation with Luke Daley's lawyer. We were out there, when all of this went down at Luke and Mary's house, and then it kind of blew over. What happened? Can you walk us through what actually happened? Did they just was it a federal search warrant or?
Yes, it was a federal search warrant. It was executed on the house, and contemporaneous to that, to Luke's vehicle. So he was stopped, ultimately pulled over in a Culver's. The house was being raided at the same time. And the mom was at the house, and she was, kind of detained for about 6 to 7 hours. Luke was in the car. He was detained for about the same amount of time, maybe a little less. Than he was released.
So his mother and Luke were both detained for 6 to 7 hours. That's a long time. That's about the same amount of time that guy Carlos was detained for too. But please remember to like the video while you're here. Likes are free. Likes are for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl. Come say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat. We got an awesome group of people here. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And I go live pretty much every night, but but I wasn't live last night.
And then when he couldn't go back home immediately, and then when he went back home, his mom wasn't there, and the house was destroyed, like the bottom floor of it specifically. The car was also, damaged through the search. He couldn't find his mom. He was worried. I mean, it was really a kind of traumatic experience for the family. Then she ended up staying at a friend's house in the neighborhood. They got reacquainted the next day. And then Mary, the mom, she ended up, because of the constant presence of media, but also new media, she ended up going to stay with her son up in Phoenix area.
Was it Luke's Range Rover? Because when we were out there was a Range Rover. Yeah.
It was.
Has he gotten that back yet?
He has.
He has.
They tested it, left it with all the, all kind of still destroyed a bit, but it was returned.
And when they do a search like that, do they have to give you a copy of the search warrant?
Typically they do. I didn't see one produced for, they may have, I don't know. I didn't see one produced for the Dalys. I wasn't given one. Obviously, we still haven't seen or had access to the affidavit that undergirded the warrant.
Do you have any idea why they chose Luke and his mom in that house and the car?
I do not.
That's the $1 million question, right? Why did they choose Luke, his mother, and the other person? As far as we know, I mean, are there any leads about it? Is there something with a phone? What is it? If whatever it is, they haven't told us. Any guesses in the comments?
Obviously, we're very, very curious to see this affidavit, but I don't. And Luke does not either, nor does his mom.
The other man, Carlos, we interviewed his lawyer, the one who was from Rio Rico, kind of a similar situation.
Right.
Yes, we know there was 2 federal warrants, but why was there 2 federal warrants? What was the evidence for it? That's what I'm curious about.
And, he was a delivery driver, and his lawyer thought maybe like he had been in that area, maybe, just with the geofencing that may have connected him to that area. Do you think it's this? I mean, did they say if they drove through that area, your clients?
It would be rank speculation on my part. I have no clue what undergirded it. I mean, we were speculating that maybe some confidential source threw his name out there for some reason. We have no idea. But as far as we're concerned, it was completely baseless, and is going nowhere. And as this storm of media and this beast that needs to be fed passes, with Iran happening now and other stories taking primary position, the problem is that you still have the sort of destruction of people's lives in the wake of this story that moves on imminently and inevitably. But, the Dalys are left picking up the pieces literally of their home, which was destroyed in the search warrant, as well as their tattered reputation. So that's why they finally, decided to come out and speak to the press, just to get their story out there and proclaim their innocence and wish the Guthries their best.
Do they have any connection to Nancy Guthrie?
They live in the same area. That's it.
But they've never met her or anyone in her family? Or...
From my understanding, Mary Daly years ago had a circumstance where they ran into each other, and I think she was with Savannah, and maybe out at a grocery store or something like that, but rather inconsequential.
Just like Mary was a fan, sort of.
So remember, Luke Daley and his mother lived 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie.
Thing like that kind of run in, like she saw them, or
I don't even know the circumstance. I just was informed by Mary that years ago that happened.
But no, so they're not friends or anything.
No.
What happened at their house? Like, I mean, because we were out there. They were there for a long time. Like, in terms of, did they search the whole house or
meticulously and destructively? They went through the whole, ground floor, breaking doors that if they were locked, breaking the doors. And just leaving no stone unturned.
Could you tell, or could they tell what they were looking for? Like, was it something specific?
And Mary didn't know. I don't even think she initially, is my understanding that she didn't know that they had warrants, and she was just being helpful. Like, yeah, any way we can help. And she was detained and put in the back of the car and sat there for hours and hours and hours, and actually was able to go into a neighbor's home for a while, and she ended up sleeping at the neighbor's home. But that's what happened.
Did they take their phones?
They took Luke's. I don't know about Mary. They did take Luke's. I don't have any results of a dump or a download from that.
But he got it back?
Unsure of that.
Okay, because I know Carlos, the other situation, I don't think he's even gotten his back still, or as of a week.
I'm saying unsure.
Okay.
I don't think that he's gotten it back.
Okay.
He's told me he's gotten the car back, of course, and they have access to the house, of course. But
Yeah.
I think they still have the car.
So they still have his phone. That's something to pay attention to as well. Luke Daley's phone, that is.
Excuse me, the phone.
Was there a brother too? Does Luke have a brother?
Luke does. And the mom, who's elderly and has some health issues, the stress of this absolutely was detrimental to her mental health as well as her physical well-being.
So, of course, this is Brian Etten. Everyone should check out Brian Etten's channel. But he's interviewing Chris Scalepi. Chris Scalepi is Luke Daley's lawyer. He's probably his mother's lawyer, too.
And she went to live with her son, Matt, up in Phoenix area.
So, yeah, because initially we heard something like there was a man detained in a Range Rover, and then there was a mom and another man or another brother detained at the house. I guess that's...
The other brother was never detained.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
Okay. What was the other question I was going to ask you? I mean, you, a longtime lawyer, do you think that should authorities come out and clear them? Because like you said, I mean, his name is now everywhere. The same with Carlos, the one from Rio Rico. Do you think they need to make a public statement or something?
That's one of the things that the Daleys are seeking. Again, as I mentioned just a moment ago, a storm can't come through, destroy things, reputations, lives, homes, and then when that's gone, who's to pay the cost? Who's to pick up those pieces? You know, I mean, there is collateral damage in these situations that gets largely forgotten. So at the very least, the Daleys are seeking to clear their name. One of the reasons why they came, frankly, the foremost reason why they even agreed to talk to the press. This was dying down. The story was dying down, and they're not seeking attention. But although the story is dying down, the internet sleuths are still throwing his name about. Luke. He's still getting.
So here's the other question, though. What would Luke Daley's motive be in this case? What would he do it for? Can we think of something? I can't think of something. I don't really know. What would his punishment revenge angle be to Savannah Guthrie? I really have no idea. I do not know.
Dirty looks from when he goes out, and it absolutely should be clearing his name. So that's something that.
And by the way, even if Sheriff Nanos did clear his name, do you think it would change anything? I mean, he's already cleared the family and spouses. Did that really change how anyone saw it? Did anyone think, oh, Tommaso must not be it. Sheriff Nanos cleared him. No, I don't think people thought that. So wouldn't really make much of a difference if Sheriff Nanos cleared them or not.
You know, we'll be seeking and hope will be forthcoming.
Do you think you'll be able to see the search warrant? I mean, do they have a right to be able to see why their house was?
Look, the law enforcement can blame, not allowing or unsealing the search warrant on an ongoing investigation. At some point, whether it's through litigation or otherwise, I will be finding out what's in that search warrant.
Okay. And just sort of bigger picture, how long have you lived in Tucson? A while, right?
I've lived here 20 years.
What do you make of the whole situation? I mean, you mentioned, it's kind of dying down a little. Obviously, Iran is happening now, but
the
whole situation, yeah.
Tragic. I mean, truly tragic. We're a small, large town. Everyone knew the Guthries, and when this information is trickling down to my kids as well, And I'm sure that's happening, across town.
But here's the other thing. If it was someone like Luke, he got extremely lucky considering, like, look at the level of anxiety he has. Do you think someone with that level of anxiety is going to be able to get away with it for this long and leave as little evidence as he did? I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so. I think that's the kind of person that gets caught, and probably quickly, if that interview is any indicator, right?
It's really unfortunate. We live in a great community, and it's a tragic thing that happened to the Guthrie family. And my clients are praying for them. I'm praying for them. Everyone I know is.
Is it unusual for them to do a search warrant like that for people who are totally I mean, have you had situations happen like this before? I mean, I was again, SWAT team. We saw, I mean, dozens of FBI. Like, we thought, this is it.
Look, I mean, there's no question that was overkill. There's no question, but and nothing's come of it.
Yeah.
So you can do the deductions yourself.
And just one last question I just thought of. Did they take anything else with them besides the phone?
That question was asked to my clients, and my understanding is that they took nothing else of interest or of anything.
I wonder what they were looking for.
Likewise.
Yeah. Anything else?
Not for me.
So it'll be interesting. We've tried to get a lot of these search warrants and documents, and everything is sealed right now at the courthouse. We've made several trips over to the courthouse, and that was a federal search warrant. And even the lawyer says he hasn't had a chance to see the affidavit and exactly why they were connecting his client back to the Nancy Guthrie case. So once we're able to get some of those documents, it'll be interesting. My gut says it might have to do with geofencing. Remember with Carlos, the first man who was detained, turned out he was a delivery driver, may have driven through the area, maybe caught up in the geofencing, which is when the FBI goes in and finds everyone whose cell phone was in this area around a certain time frame. Perhaps that's what the deal is with Luke Daley also, although he says, and his lawyer says, that he actually was never in this area. So we'll have to wait and see what is actually going to potentially connect him to all this, although, again, his lawyer says he's not connected at all. But there had to be something.
So he says that he wasn't in the area. His lawyer and Luke say he wasn't in the area. So if he's not in the area, how would it be him on the Nest Cam, right? But somehow they got a search warrant. So I'd be curious how they got it.
In that search warrant, because again, you can't just get a federal search warrant without, they must have had some meat on the bones. Even if it didn't pan out, there had to be something there for them to be able to go in, take his cell phone, detain him and his mom, search the whole house. And you heard the way he described the way that they searched the house. So we'll keep trying to get it. At some point, they'll have to unseal it. It might not be soon, though, but we'll keep trying. I mentioned it's been 1 month now since Nancy went missing. I've gotten to know a lot of the neighbors out here. I told you guys, the sheriff made it difficult for us, and the county, no parking allowed out here anymore. But the neighbors, we've gotten to know very well. We kind of know them and all their dogs because they all walk their dogs. And one of the neighbors has been especially nice, who I see all the time, a guy named Jeff. And he actually lives right behind Nancy Guthrie's house. You can see Nancy Guthrie's house from Jeff's backyard. And he'd met Nancy several times before and just has an interesting insight into what the neighborhood is like, how everybody's doing now, and what he thinks may have happened. So I just talked with Jeff a little while ago. I wanted you guys to hear that conversation. So Jeff, you live kind of behind Nancy Guthrie, kind of to the side. Yep.
So this is a neighbor of Nancy Guthrie. His name is Jeff. Pretty cool barbecue back there too, by the way. But let's see what Jeff has to say.
Around the corner.
Around the corner.
A few doors down.
How are you and your wife doing? It's been about a month now.
Yeah, I think collectively the entire neighborhood obviously are saddened, hopeful at times. We've had some moments where we thought there was a breakthrough and we thought that there could be resolution, but we are still trying to keep that hope. I know there was talk of a vehicle potentially identified and some other.
What is that noise in the background there? Is that the generator that they all are using to like plug their cameras in and whatever? Do you hear that?
Their leads.
You hear it?
And I think even us talking today and what the media is doing is to keep awareness, keep directing people to the tip line, making people aware about their reward, and keeping people aware of what has happened.
Yeah. How long have you lived here?
About 6 years.
6 years. And I can't remember, where are you guys from again?
Originally back east, but most recently New Mexico.
New Mexico. Okay. And it seems like a lot of people here moved here from somewhere else.
You know, it's funny. There are some long timers. My understanding is that Nancy's lived here since 1975.
Yeah.
There's some folks who are more recent arrivals. You know, folks who've retired. You know, there are some snowbirds. So it's kind of a mixture.
How would you describe the neighborhood? Because people who haven't been here, it's different. You have to kind of know it to really understand it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I asked the chat, what do you think the noise was? And Kat says, it's my will to live fading. Good one. Headliner for the Chuckle Hut, Kat.
It's a beautiful backdrop of desert. You know, as you see the mountains, you know, to my left, I mean, they're stunning. It's quiet. It's serene, but it is very safe. I know this was a shocking event. I mean, nothing of this nature has ever occurred. So this was really beyond surprising.
How did you first find out about it?
Sunday afternoon, we saw helicopter traffic, you know, above us. And then we saw a large response of folks from the sheriff's department. And later on, actually, an incredible response from a volunteer crew of folks.
So Brian described it not as 2 miles, but he said like around the corner and down the street is how Brian described it.
Folks who do rescue in the mountains of lost hikers or what have you, who did a thorough searching through the neighborhood. And then ultimately, we were reached out to, as were all our neighbors, about Ring video, about had we seen anything, obviously giving access to our properties. I mean, immediately we all looked through our properties, seeing if we could find anything. And unfortunately, as we all know, we are where we are.
Have you had any issues here before? Any trouble?
No, not at all.
Burglars or anything?
No. I mean, people in the summer when it's hot, people jog at 11 o'clock at night. They walk their dogs late at night, early morning. I mean, this is a very, very safe neighborhood.
So you haven't had any neighbors burglarized or anything like that?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So you never were worried about anything really here?
No, I mean, some people don't lock their doors. We would.
Yeah.
You know, people have Ring videos. I mean, that's just become almost common everywhere. But I think people do feel very safe here. I think people were not fearful, but just obviously most of all upset for her and her family, because this is terrible.
Yeah.
But also, you know, just hoping that we can have some sort of resolution. And ideally, I know it's just the hope that perhaps even a positive resolution.
So this is the kind of place people don't lock their doors?
Some don't.
Yeah.
We've heard that, you know, and it is an incredibly safe neighborhood.
Yeah, I've wondered that about Nancy. Like maybe she's lived here so long.
Yeah.
Sometimes people,
Yeah.
maybe she didn't lock her doors.
I don't know. I know, of course, we all know that she did have a security cameras.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's something that, you know, I mean, in theory, I guess you could say this could happen anywhere, but it is definitely an anomaly.
So this area behind your house,
Sure.
because it kind of butts up to Nancy's
Sure.
also. Is this just open area?
So there's, I mean, you know, the properties go back, and there are some, as you see, some sort of trails that connect some of the properties, but it's scrub. I mean, it's cactus, it's tree.
Did you hear what he just said? He said his backyard touches up on their property. I'll let you hear it again.
You know, I mean, in theory, I guess you could say this could happen anywhere, but it is definitely an anomaly.
So this area behind your house,
Sure.
because it kind of butts up to Nancy's
Sure.
also. Is this just open area?
So there's, I mean,
So the area behind his house butts up to Nancy's, is what he said.
you know, the properties go back, and there are some, as you see, some sort of trails that connect some of the properties, but it's scrub. I mean, it's cactus, it's trees, it's palo verdes, it's rock. I mean, it's really natural. So it's not a very accessible area.
But there are little trails?
Well, I mean, some very small ones. I know kids, we were told the legend was used to grab the school bus and cut through there's sort of like sort of utility road off to our left. I mean, there are some connectors.
Okay.
But in general, this is a very, very, I wouldn't say inhospitable, but it's natural.
Does anyone go back there ever?
No.
Like neighbors don't, people don't walk through there?
No, not at all. You know, I mean, occasionally the utility road, you'll see someone, obviously from the utility company, what have you. But this is part of the charm of this area of having privacy and solitude. But ironically, people are now reaching out to each other, connecting with each other. I think keeping an eye on each other. There's talk of a neighborhood watch. There are folks who've maybe lost their spouse or partner and live alone, and kind of making people aware that, hey, if you have a need, call us or bang on our door. It's okay, you know, because we are a little bit distant from each other, you know, with the lots. And I think it's actually caused a lot of conversation and processing.
Yeah, some people have asked me like, oh, are the neighbors scared? Because like other cases I've covered, you know, when something's unsolved, like people will be really scared. But I don't really get that sense here at all. I mean, I met you walking your dogs.
Yeah, I think people are, most of all, saddened and supportive. They want to be respectful of the family. This is something that, I know it's a bizarre event, but everyone has a parent. Everybody has a mother. And it's relatable that, you know, people age and you're concerned about aging parents. And I think it's just really, it's been something to process for people.
Yeah. Did you ever meet Nancy?
Just hello, just niceties when walking the dog. She had a dog at one time.
She had a
black terrier.
A black terrier.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have
two papillons.
Papillons, yeah. And one the reason I met you is because one of your papillons is very friendly and one is very
a little spirited.
Yeah, spirited is a good word. Yeah.
And we would say hello, and we saw less of her as of late, but she was a part of the community, a person who lived in the neighborhood, living her life. We did not know that her daughter is a major media figure, but I know folks in the neighborhood who've lived here 20 years who didn't know. She was a person who lived here, beautiful home, and part of the community in that sense.
For people, again, who don't know the area, would it be hard for an outsider to navigate their way in and out at night?
There are a lot of streets, you know, and you know, it's sort of, and we all have a ritual where we walk, where we jog, and what have you. But there are a lot of streets and cul-de-sacs and what have you. So in that regard, yeah, it is a little tricky, you know, to kind of learn your way around.
And dark.
You know, that's the thing is a lot of that, we don't have overhead street lamps, you know, which is actually, you can see the beautiful stars and what have you. But a lot of the houses, our house, two of our neighbors' houses are illuminated. You know, they have lighting around their homes.
Yeah, you have like landscape lights, I noticed.
So, you know, as you're out and about, you know, it's not at all dangerous in that regard. Sure, we don't have street lamps, but the houses are, many of the houses have landscape lighting.
Yeah. Is it a strange feeling? Like, have you processed just that this happened so close? I mean, it's like literally right by your house.
Yeah, I know it is. I mean, we could see the back of her home, and it's saddening because you're just, you know, it's a terrible event, and we don't know, of course, what truly happened, but it's disturbing. It's unsettling.
Are you surprised we don't know more? It's now been a month.
I mean, that's the frustration is, as I noted, folks were beyond helpful to say, have our Ring video, come to our house, interview us, talk to each other, trying to recall, had they seen something odd? Had they seen something unusual? And the reality is, and once again, every time there was a breakthrough and we thought there was going to be resolved, unfortunately it had not been. But I have to hope, I know the other day talk about the vehicle that was perhaps the vehicle, we don't know, seen. And with the reward, I understand there are more tips coming in. We have to keep some hope that maybe there'll be some sort of bit of information that will lead to something.
Yeah. Anything else?
No,
Jeff,
no, just
you want to tell people.
You know, I think, you know, folks, there is a value to having the story told so that people might recall something. I also know, in terms of the neighborhood, and you folks included have been so respectful and to the family and the community. I know that's been a hope of folks, that we've seen the value of the media doing that. There have been some podcasters where it's been different, and I think just across the board, folks are cherishing those who are bringing this information to others, and hope that overrides maybe the approach that some have taken that is at times a little disruptive.
Yeah, I think mostly people have been pretty positive. Hopefully.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for welcoming us into your neighborhood.
Oh, for sure,
Appreciate it. Appreciate Jeff for talking to me and being so supportive of the media that's out here. At KVOA, which is the local TV station where Savannah worked, which is just a couple of miles from here in town, there's this memorial that has grown that says "Bring Her Home." And again, I use the word memorial. Maybe that's not the right word, but there's a sort of just a place that people can come and sign and show their support for the Guthrie family. And there's a ton of signatures out there. I was out there last night. There was people gathering. And that's actually the station where Savannah Guthrie worked. You remember she worked her way up in local news, which is something that I can, relate to. You start in a really, really small market and then you try to climb your way up. I think Tucson was her second job. So that's why the banner happens to be at that station, because that's where Savannah worked. And I talked to a couple of locals out there who are just, invested in the case. They were actually surprised. They were surprised there haven't been more sort of like vigils or, gatherings that have been organized for the community to come together to think of Nancy. But they were happy to go out to the memorial. And I wanted you to listen to what they told me.
We just left her house. We're looking over there. Just support. We hope for a safe return. That's it.
Yeah, just been following them, and really want to show our support.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And you're from Tucson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think happened?
I don't know. There's just so many, theories, and I don't know. It's just very, very sad.
I mean, none of these people know what happened. I mean, to me, I think there was a punishment revenge motive that is somehow connected to Savannah somehow. How exactly? I don't know. I do not know.
Very sad. And yeah, I mean, I can see, where she lived, it's a safe community. We've lived here all our lives and nothing like this has ever happened, or it's just very odd, it's, yeah. And, we live on the south side of town and I feel safe there, so it's not like it's an unsafe community. Tucson is very tight knit. So, it's just it's very sad.
What are other people in town saying about it? Like other locals?
I mean, just the same, like it's just such a mystery,
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah. And, just, we don't know, just not knowing. So yeah, that's really what brought us out here,
Mm-hmm.
just to show support. And, we like to, just
Pray for a safe return.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 30 days.
I know. It's been a long time. It's shocking. Mhm.
Did you think it would take this long?
No, honestly, no. It's been a long time.
Tucson really is such a nice community. Everybody has been so welcoming, and just like those women, everybody is just really, really invested in the case. Obviously, everybody knows what's going on. They're following up with it, and they're just hoping for some kind of resolution, as we all are now that it is day 30, which is hard to wrap your mind around. So we'll keep pounding the pavement. I've been trying to get more information from the Pima County Sheriff's Office. There's not a lot coming out right now, but it's interesting. A lot of people said all of the reporting is right. Some people, I didn't report it, but some people said Savannah Guthrie had gone back to New York. That's obviously not the case because she was here at the house today. Obviously our heart goes out to her and her family with everything they're going through today, which we witnessed for ourselves today. And we'll just continue to hope for a good resolution here. So that's the latest today, Monday, day 30. I will talk to you guys later.
All right, so now we got Ashley Banfield's new video. Yeah, so Rooster said his hair packed up in his late 20s and left. My hair's been holding up all right. Got a little thinning, shedding going on that I don't like, but it could be worse. Hmm. What happened here? Ashley Banfield had a video up and then she deleted it? What the heck happened here? Do you guys see this? Ah, thank you very much, Sarah. My hair's doing pretty good. Like I said, I noticed in the back, I'm like, oh no. But it's good for now. But on a side note here, I was just going to play an Ashley Banfield video, but I don't know what happened. It's gone. It's gone, baby, gone. What was the title? Did I screenshot it? No. Did anyone remember what the title is? Oh, Kat. Thank you so much for this, Kat. Happy birthday to Adam Levine. For those who don't know, March 3rd at midnight Eastern, I will be 41. So thank you so much, Kat. I appreciate you. Jared Levine, as they used to call me. And everyone should check out Save Along Blonde's channel too. She's got a new song. She covered Fleetwood Mac's Rhiannon. I requested she cover Gold Dust Woman and Back to Black from Amy Winehouse. So definitely check that out. We can re-listen to Luke again. And while we do that, though, I'm going to see if Joe Pags or Megan Kelly or someone else has something going on. Oh, there I am. So this is Luke Daley, the person that got caught up in the FBI raid that night on Friday the 13th of February. He was detained for 6 to 7 hours along with his mother and one other person. And then they were released, questioned and released. He got his Range Rover back. They still have his phone, though.
Many people have believed that you are the person on the surveillance video, the abductor, the masked person. Is that you?
It's not me. I don't see the resemblance of it.
Oh. Danielle, thank you so much, Danielle, for the birthday wishes. Again, midnight, 5 minutes. My last 5 minutes of my 40th year. But Danielle tells me I'm still a kid, so I'm going with what she says. Thank you so much, Danielle. I appreciate you.
Looking like me, but absolutely not. I have nothing to do with this case.
Nothing to do with it. Do you have any idea who is involved in the abduction?
I don't. If I did, I would happily tell FBI, police, anything. I mean, I, like everyone else, just want Nancy to come home and be safe. But that being said,
well, living, some people wanted to check him out, so we'll play him for a minute until I find something else.
I have nothing to do with this case, and that's it.
Explain to me what happened on the night you were detained, where you were, you're with your car. How did that unfold in your eyes?
So I was driving home. I noticed two sheriff vehicles following me. They pulled me over at the Culvers right there. Asked me to get out of the car. Didn't tell me what it was about. So they had me cuffed in the back of a cop car, detained. I was asking, like, what am I being detained for? And they wouldn't tell me anything. They just said that the detectives would be there to talk to me. And
Okay, so Ashley put up the video again. I don't know what happened to it for a minute, but she privated it or something. Two minutes ago.
Hey, everyone. I'm Ashley Banfield, and this is Drop Dead Serious. It is Monday, March the 2nd, which officially...
Monday, March the 2nd. Thank you so much, Ann. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for the super chat. I got so many generous people here. I don't know how to keep up with all the gratitude. My goodness. Oh, 11:58. Oh, I'm like Cinderella. Thank you so much, Ann.
Actually makes this day 30 in the Nancy Guthrie case. And I know I didn't drop an episode yesterday or on Saturday. I'll be honest with you, there were very few developments over the weekend. There was also an attack on Iran, and I think the country's their attention just seemed to go elsewhere for a hot minute. But I know that you're still here, and I did gather a lot of information, which I'm going to give you right now. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe, please. It does me a big solid. If you're new, hi. Thanks for being here. It's good to meet you. So let's just dive right in. I've got some big news that's extremely, well, it's sad, but it is, I suppose, not unexpected. I talked to one of my law enforcement sources who's associated with the Nancy Guthrie investigation. And I learned from that law enforcement source that the Pima County Sheriff's Department enlisted one of their partner agencies and gave them the signal sniffer to take to a neighboring county and look for a body. This is several days ago that this apparently happened. And that neighboring agency did take that signal sniffer and did go out into the desert to a specific location. I'll get to what kind of specific location and what they used to find the location in a minute. But they did do that. And obviously, they did not find Nancy.
Song Bits is a mod as well as Livin is a mod. Thank you so much for this, Song Bits. I appreciate you and the super sticker and all the help you give me on the channel here as a mod. So make sure you thank Song Bits here as well. Oh, and now it's my birthday. Thank you very much, everybody.
At this place. But it is sad to hear that this was one of the directives. Please go to this specific location in the desert in a neighboring county and look for a body. So there was some intelligence that investigators came across that led them to go on that mission. And what's really interesting about the timing of it was that it was just one day after news broke that the Pima authorities were using the signal sniffer in Pima County. And I think you might remember when Brian Enton was reporting and he said, there's this helicopter above me as I'm doing this live report. And it came out later that that was a helicopter using the signal sniffer. And I think Brian mentioned that they had it on the rudder. I'm not sure if they did or if they were holding it, whatever it was. The search in the neighboring county came right after the Pima County. And I thought, well, wow, that's awfully quick, because I would have thought that they'd spend many days with that signal sniffer in Pima County. I mean, Pima County is the size of Rhode Island and Connecticut combined. It is huge. But maybe this was an immediate piece of information. They needed to go check it out. And then they brought the signal sniffer back into.
Sometimes I'll smile, Kat. Sometimes. I did not realize Pima County is the size of, what did she say? Rhode Island and Delaware combined? Is that what she just said?
Pima area and continued their searches. I don't know that. It stands to reason they wouldn't just search for.
Miss Kim, thank you so much for this, Miss Kim. I appreciate you too. You've been here for a lot of live chats. So I definitely appreciate all of your support. And you've helped me get some likes too.
Day that they would continue to use that technology. And if you missed that episode, I'll just quickly summarize that the signal sniffer is technology that, and this is my talk to me like I'm 5 language, but effectively sends out a handshake and looks for an advertisement coming from the ground, from Nancy's very specific address of her pacemaker. That pacemaker is continually sending out advertisements looking to connect with its devices, right? Because it got separated from its devices when she was taken from her home. And it's still sending out those advertisements. Hey, hello, where are you? And this sniffer comes down and searches for that address saying, I'm right here, and then connects and can find where that pacemaker is. That's what the signal sniffer was doing. I hope that made sense. It sounded awfully sophomoric, however. And for those of you who think, well, what if Nancy died? Then that's just a fool's errand. Well, the pacemaker doesn't die. The pacemaker is electronic and it will go on for years, according to the people who actually make the signal sniffer technology and who know about the actual technology of the pacemakers. So I think it's just an incredible possibility that might still yield something in this investigation. But it's just fascinating because let me tell you what the Pima folks told the neighboring agency to do.
So it's Rhode Island and Connecticut. I said Delaware, but she said Pima County is the size of Rhode Island and Connecticut.
Gave them cell tower coordinates to go into the desert, that specific area in the desert in the neighboring county. For purposes of protecting sources, I can't tell you what county, but I know what county, just can't tell you, unfortunately. And so, yeah, they were given cell tower coordinates and they took the sniffer out there, and obviously it did not yield anything, which is very sad. What's also hard when you're reporting and when you're investigating a story like Nancy Guthrie's disappearance.
Thank you so much for this. The Smitty, thank you very much for the birthday wishes. I appreciate you. And I appreciate the super chat too. Thanks for being a part of the flock of black sheep here. We got a great group of people for those listening to this. Great vibes, good community. I'm grateful for every one of you. 861, George, very good. We'll be in 1,000 before you know it. Likes are a good birthday present too.
Is that eventually one must change from a rescue mission to a recovery mission. And there is no definition for when that time is. When a ferry capsizes, of course, we know that the search mission turns to a recovery mission fairly quickly, because how long can you survive in the water? But in a mission like this, it's a little less defined. So it's very hard to be talking out loud about searching for a body. But we know that law enforcement with Pima was doing that, at least in this one circumstance. Who knows if they're doing it in other circumstances, but we are now in week 5. We hit the 1 month mark yesterday. And again, this is Monday, March 2nd, day 30. It's entirely probable there are these 2 parallel investigations ongoing. One to find Nancy alive and one to potentially find Nancy dead. And even Savannah has acknowledged in some of her Instagrams that she may no longer be with us. And to that, I have some news for you today I will get to in a moment. But finally, Savannah and her family have come to the flower display that neighbors and friends and mourners and those who are just connected to the story have left out in front of Nancy Guthrie's home. I'll show you that in just one moment, but not before I tell you also that the news that I just gave you about the signal sniffer going out to the desert in the neighboring county came one day after we were told that those images of the offender on the doorbell cam were actually on 2 different days. The significance of that is that the guest that I'm going to talk to in this episode is a fantastic guest regarding searching.
So by the way, Nancy Guthrie didn't have a dog. I was hearing people say, oh, the dog died in December, November, or whatever. But the dogs that were in pictures with Nancy were Savannah's dog. That's what I heard.
Because that is what she does. That is her entire life, searching and forensic searching and rescue and recovery. But she also happens to be a PhD in psychology. And as she puts it, she gets into the shoes of the bad guy to determine what happened. And that's kind of what we've all been trying to do, right? To figure out what happened to Nancy Guthrie, for God's sake, who does this? What could they have done? That's what this person does, who you're going to meet. Dr. Tracy Sargent is just spectacular at what she does. She even worked on BTK on that case. But in terms of offender profiling, that news that those images came out on 2 different days was big to her as well, because it sort of changes the dynamic, right? If he was stalking, it changes how Dr. Sargent would look at this crime. So that was big for her. So that's part of the conversation that I have with her as well. Even though it's a couple days old, she wants to talk about the searching, but also that offender change as well. That does make things different. So today was a very big day and a very difficult day for.
So that was the cut there of whatever they cut out. So Livin has her theory as to what was cut out, which might be correct, by the way.
The Guthrie family, and I'm about to show you what they did today when they came down their driveway to leave flowers in that memorial for their mom. It was really heart-wrenching. That's all coming in just a minute. Quick note from my sponsor. Do you remember the first time you spotted a gray hair right along your part or maybe at your temples, and it was that moment you debated whether you're going to pull it out or maybe use hair dye? I know it's a lot. And it can happen when you're like 30, sometimes younger. But here's the thing. Most of us assume.
Thank you so much for this. Improve yourself. I appreciate you so much. You've been a regular super chatter as well. But thank you very much for the birthday wishes and for the super chat. I appreciate all of your support for sure. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a great member of the flock of black sheep. Now, let's see here.
Again, I'm recording this on Monday, March 2nd, but the Guthrie family, including Savannah and her sister Annie and Annie's husband Tommaso, all came down Nancy Guthrie's driveway, and they had with them yellow flowers and a card. And it was such a sad moment to see them come and take in this makeshift memorial that has been growing right at Nancy's driveway, where her driveway meets the street right near her mailbox. The neighbors began, putting flowers out, yellow flowers, and then passersby and people from all over Tucson, have come to Nancy Guthrie's home to leave messages and these memorial flowers, and the Guthrie kids and their Annie's husband all came to take a look at it. And it was so sad because you could hear Annie crying very loudly as they were all hugging, and they left their flowers and they left a card. I'll read it for you in a moment, but I just want you to see this moment without any talking over top.
And by the way, I'm scrolling through all the chats to try to thank everyone who wished me happy birthday. I'm trying to keep one eye on the chat, one ear on what's happening. So I try my best to multitask, but I do miss some things. And if I miss you, I thank you for your happy birthday wishes.
So as I said, they looked at all the messages that people have left and the flowers they've left. They left their own yellow flowers there, and they left this card. And I want to read this for you. It says, "Mama, we miss you so much. Our hearts are broken. We are standing on ash, on scorched earth. But Mom, though we are surrounded by so much darkness and uncertainty, our love burns bright. We love you, Mommy. We miss you so much. Our best friend, Annie, Tommaso, and Olmo." I don't know who Olmo, maybe one of their children or a pet, or I'm not sure who that is, but.
So that was probably Annie, since she's a poet, right? She's got a way with words. I liked how she said before, We are blowing on the embers of hope, trying to keep them alive. Annie's words that Savannah repeated.
That was obviously from Annie and Tommaso. Savannah's not signed on that card. But I will tell you that it was only Fox and News Nation that were there to capture this moment, because the press corps has pretty much vanished from this street out in front of Nancy's house, not for lack of interest in the story necessarily. The sheriff put in these extraordinarily oppressive parking restrictions that go out for concentric blocks, right? And so anybody who wants to actually see what's happening, cover the story, find out what investigators are doing, find out what families doing, etc., they have to carry all of their gear for a very, very long walk. And don't forget, this is the desert. So they're effectively walking on sort of a dusty road in the middle of the 89-degree weather, and then carrying all their gear for the day. As Brian Enton said to me, I was absolutely exhausted. I felt dehydrated. He'd been there all day because it's not enough time in between live shots to make your way all the way back out to where your car is parked, even though a nice neighbor gave him a driveway. It just isn't very close. You know, they're low on water, they're low on power, there's no shelter from the oppressive heat. They get under a tent to try to shield themselves from the desert sun. But even then, it's just, it's made it so difficult.
So, by the way, here's what it says about a dog. Did Nancy Guthrie have a dog? What to know as search for 48-year-old enters second week. As Nancy Guthrie search enters week 2, dog rumors swirl, but the black dog in photos is Savannah Guthrie's family pet, Fetch, not Nancy's. Nancy Guthrie, who lived at her Catalina, Arizona home till her disappearance on Saturday, January 31st, has been frequently pictured with a black dog. The photo of the dog was most prominently visible in the missing posters that authorities released on Nancy Guthrie. It was also seen with her son-in-law in a family photo she posted on Christmas 2025. It has led many to wonder if the dog was Nancy Guthrie's and was it at home when she disappeared. With no suspect, person of interest, or motive around Nancy Guthrie revealed, every bit of information has become of interest to internet sleuths. Does Nancy Guthrie have a dog? What to know? No, Nancy Guthrie did not have a dog. The dog seen in her photo on the missing poster, Savannah Guthrie's family dog Fetch, a black Aussie Doodle, Australian Shepherd, and Poodle mix. Fetch was introduced in their 2024 holiday card as the family's new puppy. Its full name is Fetch Guthrie Feldman, the Today host has revealed in 2024. So that's that.
Difficult. So the sheriff got what he wanted, I think. Get rid of them by making it painful. So the other issue is that on Saturday, at 2:30 in the morning, we began a war with Iran here in the United States, and so the reporters were needed elsewhere, and so that might be part of the reason why all of a sudden there's so few people who were there. Nonetheless, to keep the story alive, Savannah put out another Instagram today, and it's just text. It's not a video, but I'll read it to you. She said, "We feel the love and prayers from our neighbors, from the Tucson community."
So nowhere am I seeing a dog passed away in December. If you're going to say a dog passed away in December, you need to cite where you found it, because nowhere else is saying it.
And from around the country, and she puts a yellow heart. Please don't stop praying and hoping with us. So just some other stuff that I collected, just news that I collected today and in the last 2 days as well. Michael Ruiz, again, dogged reporter from Fox. He did not leave. He is still there. He and his team captured these images along with News Nation of the Guthrie family coming to the mailbox. He said he also noticed a camera, and I'll read what he said in his tweet. Just noticed a camera on the way in and out of Annie and Tommaso's neighborhood that I hadn't seen before. Unfortunately, I don't have any other context to that. I don't know if this is a public camera that the city put up. I don't know if it's a neighborhood camera that the neighbors put up together. I don't know what it is, but it's new to Michael Ruiz. He also said that the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI have shifted resources as the investigation enters its 5th week. And this is what Michael says. Sources say that this morning, the case was handed off to a task force featuring Pima County homicide detectives and FBI agents. You know, at some point there has to be a drawdown, right? Again, we're going into week 5 now. We are in week 5 now. And at some point, there's still work that needs to be done in Tucson and throughout greater Arizona. And so the 400 agents that we had been told originally were at one point working on this case, they will have to draw down. And so Michael Ruiz is seeing the evidence of that through his sources right now. But also there's a statement that, you know, pretty much tells us that that is what's happening to a degree. This is from the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Quote, this remains an active investigation and will continue until Nancy Guthrie is located or all leads have been exhausted. The Pima County Sheriff's Department is refocusing resources to detectives specifically assigned to this case. As leads are developed and resolved, resource allocation may fluctuate. Pima County Sheriff's Department will maintain a patrol presence in the Guthrie neighborhood. But to that, I will tell you that on Saturday, Michael Ruiz reported that the deputy who had been watching Nancy Guthrie's driveway left. And there had been a couple of other reports saying that it's no longer a constant, a deputy protecting the house. And Matt Finn from Fox reported on Saturday that the Pima County Sheriff's vehicles that have been guarding Nancy's property for weeks might be leaving soon as the house is returned to the family. And I know what you're thinking. Wait, the sheriff told us that they returned the house to the family, or at least they returned the house. It's no longer a crime scene on Monday after the crime, right? Nancy was taken on Sunday morning, and on Monday evening, it was no longer a crime scene. And we were told that it was, you know, released to the family then. So I'm confused as you are as to why the sheriff is now saying we're releasing it to the family now. And frankly, that's not so much what the sheriff is saying as the reporters are saying the sheriff has told them. So there's been no actual press release saying that. But as you know, there's been some mixed messages throughout this particular case. Something else that Michael Ruiz noticed, which I thought was really interesting. We reported to you on Friday night that this remarkable moment had sort of percolated out of nowhere, that a neighbor from 2.5 miles away, outside of the 2-mile radius that the police were asking neighbors to look at their ring cam and let them know if there was anything unusual. These guys are 2.5. So 0.5 mile outside the radius. These people told Fox that they spotted 12 cameras on their ring cam that looks right out on the street. And of those 12, one was very, very...
And by the way, regardless if there was a dog that died in December or if it was Savannah's dog, the bottom line is there was no dog the night of her disappearance. That's really what matters for the case.
Very interesting. It was seen at 2:36 a.m. And that's interesting because it's 8 minutes after Nancy's pacemaker separated from her Apple devices in her home. And it's presumed to be the moment that she was taken from her home. And this 2.5 mile away home is about a 7-8 minute drive. So that car was very, I mean, gosh, I talked to Maureen O'Connell, from former FBI special agent, who said this could be a deal breaker. This could be everything. She was so happy. And they could even tell they thought that it was a Kia Soul, even though it's such a quick, you know, flash across the dark road. And then we heard a report that an FBI source had told TMZ that it was a dead lead. So
okay, that's what I was about to say. I was about to say we heard that was a dead lead, that 2:36 a.m. picture of the car going by. And that's what Ashley Banfield just addressed. But let's see what else she says.
That I say that Michael Ruiz from Fox today says they are reportedly still looking into that ring camera video. I mean, this was a back road out of Nancy's neighborhood, right? And I don't know the neighborhood really well, but it leads to East River Road, which is a major cross street. And from what I do understand about the neighborhood is that if you wanted to drive away and avoid cameras and major intersections, you might take this route, you know? So very interesting to hear Michael Ruiz from Fox say, still looking into ring camera video taken on that back road 2.5 miles away from Nancy's house. That's, to me, that's heartening. I'm glad. Maybe that will go somewhere, but so far, here we are 4 days later.
So what is that? Another example of contradicting news, right? Some people say dead lead. Mike Ruiz says, actually, they're still looking into that. So which one is it? Which one are you supposed to believe? How are we supposed to know?
And the police have not come to us with the white Elantra moment, you know, be on the lookout for this car. Let us know if you've seen this car. They haven't told us be on the lookout for anything yet. So watch this space. Okay, Max Gordon. Fox has been doing some really good work on this story. I should tell you, I learned early on that they sent roughly 30 people down to Tucson to cover this story. So understandably, they're doing an incredible job. And Brian Enton is doing like a spectacular job with a fraction of that, you know, so yay, Brian. But Max Gordon from Fox, I believe he's located in LA. I think he's based in LA. But Max said this on Twitter. I just interviewed Luke Daley and his mother, Mary Chapman Daly. Luke's car and their home were raided by law enforcement on February 13th in connection to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. Neither was arrested, and their lawyer says he's been unable to see the search warrant. I don't know why that's nuts to me. I mean, okay, I get it. Everything's been sealed. We can't get anything. We can't get anyone. We tried to see the warrant when they towed Annie's car. That warrant was sealed as well. According to Megan Kelly and her team who tried to get it, they were told nope. And I've got something I want to mention about that in a moment. But Brianna Whitney from Arizona Family also interviewed Ms. Daly. And Ms. Daly told Brianna that the police were in her home for 6 hours. She had no idea why they were there and had no idea that there was some connection to her son who'd been arrested, you know, not far away. He had just gone for food. He'd been not arrested. He'd been detained and cuffed in a parking lot with a silver Range Rover just a few blocks away. But listen to this incredible interview that Brianna Whitney did for Arizona Family.
So they were there for about 6 hours. And I was in the SWAT vehicle, and they went through my house and went through everything and tore everything, broke my, if the door was locked, they would break it open to go see what was in there. There really wasn't anything in there, but you know, it was pretty upsetting.
Well, and it's one thing to come to you and say, do you have any video or anything like that? It's another to detain you and search your house with a search warrant. Did they tell you why?
I guess I assumed, you know, because I live close by or something, but I just said I'd do anything to, if we could find some clues that might help, but I don't think there's going to be anything in here.
So when they detained you, did you know that this was related to also them investigating Luke?
No.
You had no idea?
No, I wasn't thinking this was about Luke. I found out it was also about Luke, but initially, no, I was thinking it was all about Nancy Guthrie and finding her.
An interesting thing to note is, why wouldn't Luke Daley's lawyer and the mother's lawyer here, Chris, why wouldn't they give that interview to Brian Enton? I think Brian Enton would be a little more disarming, I think. Like, he'd be more, I don't know, even though he's got a bigger audience, I don't know, it's maybe, as opposed to a woman, I think some guys might get more nervous around a woman sometimes. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there.
And whatnot.
So that is Mary Chapman Daly. And Brianna Whitney also spoke with Luke Daley, her son, and he had this to say about his experience.
Many people have believed that you are the person on the surveillance video, the abductor, the masked person. Is that you?
It's not me. I don't see the resemblance of it looking like me, but absolutely not. I have nothing to do with this case. So I was driving home. I noticed 2 sheriff vehicles following me. They pulled me over at the Culvers right there, asked me to get out of the car, didn't tell me what it was about. So they had me cuffed in the back of a cop car, detained. I was asking, like, what am I being detained for? And they wouldn't tell me anything. They just said that the detectives would be there to talk to me. And once I saw like FBI and all the other cars start pulling in. I'm like, oh, this is probably about the Guthrie case. I'm like, this should be easy. Like, I have nothing to do with this, so it should be not a big deal to clear my name and move on.
They would do with Brian to reach more people, for one. I mean, and of all the people on the case, I think like Brian's he's the go-to, right? I mean, of all the people reporting on this case, he's probably the most prominent and legit that people think of.
But the whole time during the questioning, didn't really seem like more of like a fishing expedition for them to try to get me to say something, because all the dates I was telling them where I was, things like that. I'm like, all you'd have to do is look at my phone and see my location. It was nowhere near anywhere or have any connection to this. But still, it was tough, like being there. Like, I mean, I don't trust the FBI to the extent that I'm like thinking that there's pressure on this case and they want to find the person. So like the whole time while I'm sitting in the back of the cop car, I'm like panicking, thinking that I'm going to be framed for this, or they're trying to pin this on me somehow. They searched Range Rover. They towed my Range Rover, did all DNA testing or whatever, and then gave it back to me. Took my cell phone.
Now, no lawyer in their right mind is ever going to let him talk to JLR. JLR is probably going to like trick him into like confessing.
I've had no way to get a hold of anyone, which is probably a good thing because everyone's looking at me like I'm this person that I'm not. So it's been rough.
So that is really fascinating. They towed Luke Daley's silver Range Rover on a flatbed, covered up the license plate so we could never see it. They towed it under a warrant and processed it, and then must have determined that it is not of evidentiary value because they returned it to him. When you take something under a warrant, Fourth Amendment, which, protects Americans and people living here against an unreasonable search and seizure from the government, when you take something under warrant, if it proves not to have evidentiary value, you return it. You have to. It's on the judge. The judge is the person who signed off on it. And so the judge is like, yeah, if you're not keeping that for the investigation, you give it back, or my head's on a, stake. So what's interesting is that last we checked, Annie Guthrie's car had not been returned. And the sheriff had told Fox it's part of the investigation. We have not had an update today.
He might have been a Rhodes Scholar, but it didn't stop him from doing some pretty wild stuff in the past, if you look it up.
And again, today is Monday, March 2nd, as to whether her car's been returned. But it would be really weird that they would give Luke Daley's car back, which was seized after Annie's car was seized, and not give Annie's car back. I'm still trying to make heads or tail of that. Okay, so what I wanted to mention to you about was this news that I broke at the top of this episode, that my law enforcement source told me that the partner agencies of the Pima County Sheriff were asked to go into the desert in a neighboring county, take the signal sniffer, and go with these direct cell tower coordinates and look for, quote unquote, a body. It did not yield Nancy Guthrie, but what took them there? I mean, that is the big mystery and fascinating. So I called Tracy Sargent, Dr. Tracy Sargent. Tracy has been involved with, between 2,000 and 3,000 missing persons cases. So she's been at this game for a long time. And the cases are similar or slightly similar to the Nancy Guthrie case because, of course, there's just nothing like Nancy's case, right? There's just nothing. Her outfit is called Forensic Investigations and Analysis. Tracy has 3 cadaver dogs in her arsenal, along with those years and years of skills. And she has the added benefit of being a PhD in psychology. So like I said, she says she puts herself into the bad guy's shoes and then tries to find out what he would do based on the knowledge and the education and the training and the information, especially the forensic information on this particular case. And so that's why I wanted to talk to her, because The signal sniffer was sent to these coordinates in the desert in a neighboring county. Why, Tracy? Why? And what else are they doing? But also the notion, because it had happened right at the same time, that these two photographs of the perpetrator on the ring cam, all the law enforcement sources have told us they come from different days. So this guy was casing the place.
So someone asked, do we rule out Tommaso? I mean, hey, Annie and Savannah aren't acting like he has anything to do with it. I mean, if they thought he had something to do with it, it's pretty wild they'd still be spending time with him like this, right? Walking to the memorial like that, or whatever you want to call it, memorial, or what else would you call it if not a memorial, right? So, I don't know. Bandmate, I don't know. But while you're still here, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Like for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl. Like also because it's my birthday, of course. And please subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And say hello to the awesome flock of black sheep in the live chat.
If that's true, then he's checking out the place he's going to, target in the days to come. So I wanted to talk to Dr. Sargent about the parallel tracks as this investigation changes in numbers, right? Fluctuates. And there's this task force. I wanted to ask her about the parallel investigations, how you look for a person you're hoping to still rescue, but how you look for a person when you think they may be dead. And before I do that, a quick note from my sponsor. Next time you're in the kitchen, grab a box of cereal and actually read the ingredients. We're into week 5. Tracy, talk to me a little bit about the methodology behind about the Lovebird cereal. Join the real food revolution and take back our country's health from big food, box by box.
So I only rewind because I want to hear the person's name and what she is.
So here is my conversation with Tracy, and it's super fascinating given the fact that now, again, we're into week 5. Tracy, talk to me a little bit about the methodology behind the large-scale picture of how to search for Nancy Guthrie now that we are in week 4. You've mentioned something about high probability areas that should come first. What does that mean?
Yes, we certainly can't search the entire world for someone. So what we want to do is essentially focus on high probable areas first. What does that mean by high probable areas? Essentially where the person was last seen, or any evidence or any technology that leads us to a particular area of interest. That's a high probable area, and that's where we want to focus those resources. Essentially start at ground zero and then work our way out from there.
Being that you've got a PhD in psychology and you apply that to your business of search and rescue, what does this newest
So her name is Tracy. She has a PhD in forensic psychology. So that's what she is. I always want them to repeat what they are, but they say it in a blurb and I often miss it. But it's a PhD in forensic psychology. Her name's Tracy. Not sure what her last name is.
News that came out about the fact that this perpetrator was casing. He was there before the night that Nancy disappeared. What does that enter into the picture in terms of how you put yourself in his shoes and then decide what may have come next?
Absolutely. In all of these situations, the motive is key here. So what is his motive? And now that we know that he was there previously, it's obvious that he's targeted this home, and we have to figure out what his motive, not only for targeting the home, but also why that home interests him. Is it because there's a lone female that lives there by herself? Is it because it's an older female that lives by herself? Is it something inside the home that he's interested in? What is that motive? He obviously is there for a particular reason. He's targeted this home. He's reconning it. And he's certainly fully expected to come back and commit whatever crime that he had in mind.
So putting the psychology into why someone has come in and how they have decided to come in, what can you extrapolate from that adds to the strategy of how to search for where Nancy may have been taken?
So we have to look at,
This is a good question. The strategy of where to search for Nancy and where she might have been taken. Because at this very moment, I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean, I would, if I were a criminal, I'd go to Mexico. But how does that even like get you to begin where to look for her? I kind of get the sense they're looking for a needle in a haystack right now, and they don't know where to look. But let's see what these forensic psychologist says.
So again, the motive. We can theorize what that might be, the psychological part of this, his reasoning and why he's there. So let's say, for example, he decided to stake this house to steal something. And let's theorize that maybe he was surprised by Miss Guthrie and wasn't expecting her to be there. Maybe he was staking it out to see if somebody was there, see their routine, and thinking, oh, if I come back at the house at this time, there's not going to be anybody there. But in this particular situation, unfortunately, she was there, and perhaps she surprised him. And now he's having to deal with a situation that he wasn't planning on dealing with. So now it's a matter of maybe panic. What do I do? And then just out of anxiety and adrenaline, he's dealing with a situation he had not planned for. So you have to look at from the perspective of what is he going to do with her? Where would he take her? He's in a panic. He wasn't planning on doing this. And then you have to look at the situation of just physically her medical condition, her fear, and things like that. How is he going to take care of her? Why did he take her? And in this situation, we have to theorize maybe because she could identify him. And now, again, he wasn't planning on taking her. So there's a lot of psychological situations going on in this individual that maybe he didn't plan for. And he's really going by the hip of just trying to deal with this situation and, minute by minute and day by day.
If that's the case, I mean, it certainly could be another whole theory altogether. And they abound on the internet, the theories of what may have happened and why and the motives. But I want to go back to the high probable areas, because given this news that my source has told me about, that partner agencies have been engaged now to use the signal sniffer and search in a remote area of the desert in a neighboring county using coordinates. What does that tell you?
Gosh, that would be incredible if that's the situation. That would really be a game changer in this. To be able to lead us to a specific area, to take resources there, whatever might be needed. And those resources could be varied. And let's say if she's alive, that's certainly a number of resources that we want to bring in. And unfortunately, because of the extended time frame, she's been missing now for 4 weeks. So we have to look at the possibility maybe she's not alive any longer. So now you have to bring in other resources to utilize in that situation. And again, the signal will at least pinpoint an area that we can focus on and take those resources, whatever might be needed. And again, search those areas, and they'll tell us 2 things. They'll tell us where something is and something isn't. Is there evidence? Is Nancy there? Is there something else that will be helpful in this case to move it forward? But due to the fact that they've at least identified an area to check, that's going to be extremely helpful in this situation.
So that's what this video is all about, the area to check. And that's the part that I think Ashley Banfield maybe edited out because they don't want people going there maybe and involving themselves in the search. So somehow they got an area. They're not going to tell us how they got it. They're not going to tell us where it is. But apparently they have an idea of where a body might be. And clearly it might be a body of a no longer with us Nancy Guthrie, unfortunately, but there's certainly a possibility.
And I wish I knew what led to those coordinates. And I don't have that information, but it would be fascinating, especially as far out as a neighboring county. And I keep coming back to the high probable areas, because if you're if you're looking, in the middle of the desert, there are some limitations to what bad guys can do and what they can get to.
Absolutely. So what we have to do from a psychology perspective, human behavior, and just the pure logistics of doing something. So we have this signal, it's identified in an area. So now we have to consider theorizing that perhaps he took Nancy out in that area, or even some kind of evidence. Probably he's not going to walk out in that distance and, far away. So you have to look at, all right, how would a vehicle get in there? Is there some areas where there's a road, or there's some routes that would be viable for a vehicle to travel through? So that's going to narrow the area considerably. So then from there is that logistically, once he locates an area, is it an area that maybe attracts him to go, or maybe he's familiar with, that he can go there, and then logistically, can he walk a certain distance? Let's say either walking somebody out into the desert, or even carrying someone out into the desert. With all due respect, someone that is dead weight, whether they're unconscious or deceased, that's actually quite difficult to do, no matter how strong or big you are. The dead weight of someone is something you just can't carry some distance. So that's going to be very helpful as well if we look at it from, again, when we search these areas, we truly want to walk into the shoes of these bad guys. What not only would they do, but also just as importantly, what can they do?
Well, take me to the wood as opposed to what can they do, because that high probable area makes sense when you say you can't drive there. You're sure not going to walk 4 or 5 miles with, like you said, 150 or so some odd pounds. But what about what would they do? Tell me about the psychology of that and how that enters into the way you approach search.
Yes. So again, when I go out there with my dogs or with other investigators to search an area, I truly walk in the shoes of the individual, check the area out, what interests them here. And one of the things we recognized, and what I have seen over the years, is that when somebody drives in, let's say, a 1-lane road, interestingly enough, almost without exception, even if there's more people, more than one person in the car, oftentimes we have found what we're looking for, whether it's the person or evidence, on the driver's side of how they drive in. Then
because
we look
it's opposite?
Correct. Yes. Even if we have multiple people in the car, because oftentimes the driver is the lead.
Well, if you don't think law enforcement tries to pin crimes on people, you don't know law enforcement, because they absolutely do sometimes. Doesn't matter if it's illegal, but especially in the past, they used to do that all of the time. Look at any history book and you'll see it. Look at books like To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, that stuff is not based on fiction. It is based in reality, because especially when there was a murder, they were very quick to try to solve that crime. And did it mean that person was always guilty? No, it did not mean that. It just mean they wanted to solve the crime. So again, if someone's low-hanging fruit, they are not against pulling them over and picking on low-hanging fruit to this day. That happens all the time. And it happened to me.
Leader, and they take the person out of the car from the driver's side and then take them into the woods. On the flip side of that, let's say on the driver's side, there is a big mountain that's 1,000 foot high. Well, that's certainly going to alter their behavior to say, you know what, here's this obstacle here. We need to consider somewhere else. Let's say on the passenger side of where the vehicle is, we need to go out in that direction. So there is a method to this madness. And again, looking at the topography, what attracts them to that area, why would they go this side and not that side? So there are a number of variables, and we approach it strategically, but we go back when you say the high probable areas. Let's say there's tire tracks, there's some kind of disturbance in the area, theorizing this is where they parked or where they were. We start there and then work our way out.
For lay people like me, you think about the county, Pima County is the size of Connecticut and Rhode Island combined. And that's just one county. There are all the surrounding counties, in Arizona, northern Arizona, eastern, southern, or not southern, but western. It seems like it's searching for a needle in a haystack. Again, to the untrained eye, is it?
Ashley, it can be. It's amazing to me after working some of these cases with the advancements in technology, with cell phones, with cameras, flock systems, all of those things, even social media, how one person can vanish without a trace. And I will go back to 2 cases that I'm working right now, that those individuals, we actually know exactly where they were, why they were there, when they were there, what they did. And to this day, we still have no idea where they are. So it is not only a needle in a haystack, but sometimes it can be vanished without a trace situation.
That's what I said too, right? Needle in a haystack, vanished without a trace. I mean, if it wasn't vanished out without a trace, how would it be different? Right? This is basically a vanished without a trace scenario right now, isn't it?
Even again, with all the technology that we have nowadays, it's an incredible, insurmountable challenge. And unfortunately, Ashley, it's not like the movies. It's really not. I wished it was. But in these situations, it really just goes back to not only doing the investigations and having a strategic approach to these things, but it comes down to just dogged hard work and, quite frankly, some good luck as well.
I mean, you've done between 2,000 and 3,000 cases. So you are the best person to ask this. When do the authorities who are directing this entire investigation and search, when do they transition from a search for Nancy to a recovery to find Nancy and potentially Nancy's body?
Ashley, that's a tough one. And it's something that is really difficult to transition, not only for the authorities, but certainly the families. And with all respect and consideration to the Guthrie family and all of her friends in the community as well. We as investigators always want to approach it from the standpoint that someone is alive until we know otherwise. However, the reality is, as time passes, and now that we're in week 4, that has to be considered that are we in a situation where it's a recovery instead of a rescue mission?
Is it a parallel? Is it a parallel investigation? Meaning at a certain point, an additional line of attack takes up position, and that is the potential of a recovery while the rescue is continuing.
Ashley, that's a great description. A parallel approach is really the best way, especially in these kind of situations, because so much is unknown. But when we look at, she has, advanced age, she's 84 years old. She does have some medical challenges. And then just the time frame itself. Working these parallel is the best description and the best approach in this. We always want to lean into that she's still alive and doing well, but for the due diligence and really wanting to find these answers to so many questions, really looking into and considering it may be a recovery situation. And how does that change things? Well, it changes it in a number of ways. In the beginning, it's certainly the, just a mass wealth of information and trying to figure out what's happening, the motive, where they are, all of those questions going on. Now, if we have to consider recovery in parallel with the investigation of her still being alive, considering other areas that maybe we didn't consider beforehand because we didn't need to. And that would be, let's say, some obvious things like a lake or a pond or maybe a mine or a well or some other areas that may be something evidence, and unfortunately maybe Miss Guthrie may be concealed in some way, that we have to consider that now in parallel with the hope always that she is still alive.
So regarding concealment, and given the information that I've learned from my source, which is they're out searching the desert with the signal sniffer based on coordinates, specific coordinates. So many cases that I've worked on, and I'm sure you as well, have been broken by seeing grounds that are recently disrupted. In the J.J. Vallow case, they noticed the ground and, his stepfather's backyard had been disturbed. And lo and behold, they found a grave. Arizona strikes me as a bit of a different animal in terms of the topography and the climate. Can you weigh in on how easy or difficult it is to see recently disturbed terrain?
In comparing when we talk about the Arizona desert and other areas, unfortunately with the sand and we have the wind, if something is disturbed there, the challenge is because of the shifting sands and the wind and things of that sort, the concealment of disturbed dirt can be very difficult in that kind of environment. Where you compare it to maybe a wooded environment where the dirt has been disturbed with the leaves and the trees and things like that, it's pretty obvious that something's happened there. So unfortunately in the Arizona environment, and I have worked some desert type environments.
So what I mean by being falsely charged is we get falsely accused, right? And if you slip up, then they'll try to charge you with something, right? But they are not against, like, even with murders and things, they've charged people with murder that did not do it. Now, thankfully, that didn't happen to me. What happened to me was more along the lines of they'll accuse me of like, oh, you must have robbed the home here, even though I didn't. But why did they think it was me? Because, oh, this guy has a record. So it probably was him. So they come to your place and they harass you and they accuse you. And I was just lucky I didn't get charged. But they certainly try. They certainly try to frame you and let you trip yourself up. And so I know now what I would do in a situation like that is, no, you don't say a word. Don't say a word unless your defense lawyer is present. But what happens to a lot of people is they don't do that. And maybe because they're not as street smart or whatever. And then they talk themselves right into a charge, even if they didn't do it.
Those themselves can be extremely challenging. Unfortunately, you look at all of the parameters that we have for the investigators from day one, all of it is difficult, from the topography, from not knowing why this person did this, who they are, what happened, why they did it. All of those things just been extraordinarily difficult for the investigators. And I want to emphasize, this really is an extraordinary case in every way. And it's going to take, again, just a tremendous amount of work, tireless hours, endless days to figure this out. But also, I have to go back, some luck.
And that was the most obnoxious thing. You guys are giving me flashbacks to like 14 years ago. So what happened was I wasn't even doing anything wrong, but just like I was walking up and down my street on the phone and randomly someone called the police on me because there was kids around and they were like, this guy looks suspicious. And all I was doing was talking on the phone. And then I was trying to help out my buddy's security system and I was leaving flyers to help him. And then he told me, oh, Jared, you shouldn't be doing that. So I took the flyers off. And then someone called the cops on me because I took the flyer off. So where I was living in this time, people were very suspect of everyone. They're also probably watching true crime left and right, and they're very suspicious. But then what would happen is that happened, and in the same week, there was all these robberies occurring. So the police were like, this guy had the cops called on him, even though he didn't do anything wrong, but we're going to accuse him of the robberies now, just because it looks like he's guilty. So because I had the things called to me before, they're like, oh, it looks like he's guilty. And so they said to me, oh, were you doing this? And like a whole swarm of them came by when I was walking in my street one day, and they're undercover cop cars. And they were like, oh, there's been all these robberies here. We think you did it. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, we just stopped you the other day, and now here all these robberies are. We think you did it. And I was like, well, I didn't. They're like, well, we don't believe you. We're going to try. We're going to pull you in. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm not saying a word to you without my lawyer. They're like, well, then we think you're guilty. I'm like, okay, you can think whatever you want. And then nothing happened. But that's an example of what they do. And they were also looking at my record previously, because I did have drug charges previously. Now, they were years ago, but they were still there. But this is just what they'll do, right? If they see you have, especially if you have a record, they automatically look at the people that have a record first. What do you think CODIS is? CODIS is something that, oh, all these people have a record. Now, I think it's violent crimes in CODIS. I've never been convicted of a violent crime. But in CODIS, that's what they are, right? So, but that's what local law enforcement does. If anything like petty is going on, they look to, who's got drug offenses around here? Let's go to them first. It's just the easy thing to do. And they don't have a problem harassing people that are the easy people to harass.
That maybe something will happen. Somebody will find something or hear something or know something that will help move this case forward in a much quicker manner and be able to figure out exactly what happened.
Well, to the luck, Arizona is different than, say, Ohio, in that there's a lot of border patrol. There are a lot of boots literally on the ground in southern Arizona that don't exist in other states. And I'm only imagining that does present at least a different metric when it comes to luck.
I would agree with that, Ashley. You know, as they say, more eyes, the better. And certainly the high profile nature of this situation and Miss Guthrie and everything that's being done, and certainly you and other news folks that are sharing all this information, I think it's going to be extremely helpful, and it is going to be a game changer in this case. So, and with the Border Patrol being so close by, that's certainly going to be helpful as well.
I mean, they're out literally in remote parts of the desert, searching for people who are using the remoteness of the desert to their advantage. So to that end, you mentioned...
And the last police story I'll tell is, the best thing I ever did for myself was get a new car 6 or 7 years ago. It's not even a new car anymore, right? But when I had a 2006 Mazda 3, I got pulled over in that thing all the time just because I was a little bit beat up. And that's what cops target. They target people that look poor or in a beat up car. But then the second I got just not even a fancy car, a new Honda Civic, the second I got that, I stopped getting pulled over. It was magic. It was like I wasn't driving any different. The only thing that looked different was my income level. My income level looked different, and all of a sudden, they left me alone. But when I looked more poor, oh my goodness, they didn't like that. They thought I was a criminal.
Many eyes are better, but the sheriff in this case has discouraged private search parties. I understand what the sheriff is saying. I can understand both sides of this argument. They don't want to interfere with the work of the sheriff and the searchers or whatever might be happening in search and rescue. But I also know that many cases have been solved by crowdsourcing and actually search parties. Casey Anthony's daughter was found by a civilian. Gabby Petito, that was something that a civilian led to. So what is your thought about the fact that many eyes make lighter work or better work versus don't disturb the professionals?
Well, Ashley, I think it is a matter of, again, the more eyes, the better. with the understanding of respecting what the investigators are doing and not interfering with those efforts. So there is a balance. Certainly want to embrace everybody's interest in wanting to help, but also understanding that this is a very serious matter and that the investigation is ongoing and extremely active, and not to interfere with those efforts. So I would say folks that do want to help certainly is appreciative, but also respecting the sheriff and the investigators that are involved in this. With that said, I certainly would be more than happy to help. I do have 3 cadaver dogs that are experienced, and, I'm happy to help in any way. But with that, I would not go unless I'm invited and asked, and going through the proper channels to help in this situation. So,
and you've made overtures.
Yes, ma'am. I did reach out to the sheriff's office on their website and provided my information to them that if I can help in any way, I would be more than happy to do that. And I, being a criminal investigator and law enforcement myself, I still would not go out there unless I'm invited and approved, because I don't want to interfere with what they're doing. I want to be an asset. I want to work in cooperation and collaboration with them. So I would say the same thing to anyone else, law enforcement or otherwise, to work with the sheriff's office and get that approval to come out there and help.
There's always a push-pull when an emergency situation is in front of us, and that is finding Nancy alive. That's the priority that has been from day one. But there is also the care and consideration to preserve any kind of prosecution once the bad guy, God willing, is found. In that respect, there have been private searchers, average civilians that have come out and searched drainage culverts. I mean, we've got pictures of them finding a black backpack in one of the drainage culverts. I believe it was a Swiss-made backpack with an icon on the back.
And yeah, I mean, at this rate, I'd be all for Sheriff Nanos turning this over to the FBI. I mean, what could have hurt at this point? Nothing really. I mean, but even the FBI is scaling back the amount of resources and people they are giving to this case. So we'll see. I mean, does anyone think they're close to solving something? Does anyone think they're just they are this close to a breakthrough and it's going to happen within this week? I mean, I don't think so. But I mean, let me know if you think so. Type 1 if you think they're going to come up with something big this week. Type 2 if you think, no, this could take a long time. And if it's ever solved. So 1, you think they're close to solving it. 2, no, it's not looking good.
That doesn't appear to be the same one in the doorbell cam. But in that respect, helpful, yes, because at least something was found. Harmful because forget using that in a prosecution, even though they found it on a stick and tried to preserve it best they can until the sheriffs come up.
You know, Ashley, that's a great point, because when we're out there and working these operations, we always have to take in consideration.
So apparently, according to Surviving the Survivor, a neighbor of Nancy said that she lost a dog in December. But honestly, it doesn't matter because that dog wasn't there the night of the disappearance. So, okay, she had a dog in December, but not anymore. According to Surviving the Survivor podcast, according to a neighbor. Now, you'd have to ask the neighbor, though, are you sure you're not mistaking it for the dog that's Savannah's? Because would Savannah visit? Probably. Would she ever bring her dog when she visited? Maybe. I don't know.
The chain of custody, and the end result is we want this person to be held accountable. And it could be that one piece of evidence that may be disturbed or gathered by someone, all good intentions, but it could influence and hamper the case in a pretty dramatic way, especially when we get to the prosecution part of all of this. And again, we certainly want to find Miss Guthrie and bring her home. So that can certainly take, some it could hamper with that as well. So you're absolutely right. Good intentions, but we want to make sure these are done correctly and appropriately, because the end result, that once she is found, whether, with all respect, whether she's dead or alive, there's still a lot that has to be done afterwards. That this is just phase 1, and then phase 2, and then we go to another phase 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. So this is just.
So by the way, it looks like the vast majority of people think, no, they're not close. They're not close, and it's not looking good. I'm trying to scroll through to see if anyone thinks it's not. It is looking good. One person does. 2 people do. 3. 4. 4. 4 out of about 25. So not looking good.
Just the beginning, not the end, or even in the middle. So there's still a lot of work and a lot of questions. And we, again, what we're doing now can have a huge impact, both positive and negative. And that applies to anyone that is involved in this case.
As you talk about the phases, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you went as far as, I think, 6. And we're in phase 1 now. As the investigation, the search, the recovery, the rescue, the recovery moves from phase to phase, and there's a parallel operation, as you mentioned, that will ultimately be working, and it looks like it may be now based on what my sources reported. What additional equipment would be employed all of a sudden in this secondary phase, parallel phase?
Yes. So Ashley, what they've been using now is a lot of the same resources you would continue using. So again, we're talking about the investigators, the ground searchers, drones, all of that. And
wait a minute. We got a birthday buddy here. Bodacious will be 68 on my birthday, March 3rd. Now, depending on your time zone, it might not be March 3rd where you are, but it's March 3rd where I am. So happy birthday from the East Coast, from me to you, to my birthday buddy. And Kathleen, I don't know what other comments you made, but sometimes YouTube does delete comments, you know. So, but Kathleen, what were you saying? What are you saying? Because I don't see anything. I don't see the comments you made about just calling this a cash grab. But say your comment.
then even behind the scenes, the technology we talk about, the signals and all of those things that are happening behind the scene that we may not even be aware of. All of that is still happening. And then in addition to other resources, let's say divers, sonar, boat operators. We talk about the drones. We continue using those. Certainly search dogs, in this case, cadaver dogs, which technically are human remains detection dogs. So those additional resources that maybe we're not using now, we want to implement now, and again, work in parallel with the ongoing investigations of this parallel, route of her still being alive, and we need to find her, but also look at the possibility of not only her maybe possibly passing away, but also evidence. We talk about the backpack and some other things. So I would incorporate the divers and sonar and other specialized resources like that, because we've had 4 weeks now thinking like the bad guy. He's had all of this time to get rid of evidence, to try to conceal his actions, to hide things, to get rid of things, because if he's ultimately caught, he certainly doesn't want to incriminate himself, or certainly not incriminate himself as much as he would at the beginning of this. So there's a lot of parts happening right now in parallel with one another. And all of this hopefully will give us some answers.
Talk to me a little bit about the dogs, because I think you've mentioned in the past, not only can they find where someone is, equally importantly, they can find where someone isn't, and that's important.
Absolutely, Ashley. What I've learned over the years is that knowing where someone isn't is just as helpful and
Knowing where someone isn't as helpful. I agree with that. Now, this is interesting. Improve yourself. FBI said day is coming soon when we will need to apologize to Nanos. She knows something. Who is the ex-FBI? Is it Jennifer Coffendorfer, Maureen O'Connell, or someone else? Let me know, because that sounds interesting.
important to the investigation. And many of these cases I've worked, it's been a process of elimination. Also, the great thing about dogs is that they can check an area much more quickly and efficiently, and even more accurately than human searchers. Because in essence, we talk about the desert. When the ground is disturbed and the shifting winds and the sand, it's very difficult for us to look and see, well, you know, it all looks disturbed out here. How do we figure out where something might be? Well, we're dogs, you can't hide scent. People have been trying to hide scent from dogs for many years, but dogs can pick up scent days, months, years, and in fact, many years later. So dogs are an excellent resource for something like this. In addition, they also can find evidence for us, whether something was there and is still there.
Oh my goodness. So Maureen's the one who said that the day is coming soon where Sheriff Nanos will need an apology. Maureen said it. And of all the former FBI agents, she said it? Like, wow, that makes me think there's something coming here. Now, where did she say that? Was that with Megyn Kelly or someone else? It wasn't Brian Etten. It wasn't Ashley Banfield. So who was it? Must have been Megyn Kelly then, right?
Something tangible that we can pick up and take into custody as evidence, but also something that was there and then removed, but the scent is still there. But at the same time, if the dogs are telling us there's no scent here, we can mark it off and then move on to an area of possibly finding evidence, finding Miss Guthrie, and finding answers.
Talk to me a little bit about the environment. I think of Arizona as hot and dry and dusty. It's not. It is in the day and it can be different at night. How does that affect the dogs and their work?
Absolutely, Ashley. So if we think about scent as moisture or water, in the heat of the day, that water or moisture is going to dissipate very quickly. So the scent is essentially going to disappear and die out. Whereas at night, it's going to be much more alive and much more viable for the dogs to be able to pick that up. While at the same time, they'll be able to work longer and better. So in a hot, dry, arid environment, oftentimes we'll deploy the dogs at night instead of during the day, and it works very well.
I think I'd heard somebody say in your line of work that a very light.
So I heard also did they send out dogs in the very beginning? I know they didn't do the lights because of that light ordinance, but did they do dogs in the beginning? I think they did, didn't they? I don't remember hearing much about it though, because if they did, they didn't really find much, right? But that is interesting. So a dog would be better off searching at nighttime than during the day. Interesting. Also, if you're still here, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Likes could be considered a birthday present for me today. March 3rd is my birthday. And Bodacious's birthday, of one of the members of the flock of black sheep here. Make sure you wish her a happy birthday too. My birthday buddy. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and come say hello to the rest of the flock of black sheep. We got an awesome group of people here.
Rain actually enhances the scent that they might be looking for, but a big rain is exactly what you don't want.
That's exactly right. So if you think about scent, again, when the moisture, it really percolates that scent. If you think about after a rain where things smell much cleaner and better and fresher, even for us, it's the same thing for dogs. So a little bit of moisture is extremely helpful and makes a big difference in the scent, whereas you're right, the heavy rains can wash it away.
What about the longevity of scent? I mean, I keep coming back to the fact that we're in week number 4. If there was scent in a particular area, let's just say in the desert, would it still be there 4, 5, 8, 10, 30 weeks out?
So we're again working parallel investigations, and it's the same thing with scent. If we're looking for somebody that's alive and you're walking down this path or wherever, scent can die out pretty quickly, a matter of hours, certainly in a matter of days. Whereas if you're looking for someone that is deceased, their scent can be absorbed into the environment and last hundreds of years. I have used my dogs in revolutionary battlefield sites where they have actually found soldiers buried on the battlefield. So that scent can stay there for many, many years and be viable for the dogs for a long, long time.
Literally the difference between the scent of decomposition and the scent of a live person.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
How long does the scent of a live person fall off?
So when we're walking, we have our skin grafts that fall off. And again, let's say if somebody's walking down a...
So how long does the scent of a human wear off? This is an important question. I'm curious your answer on this.
Paved road, hot, arid conditions, that scent can dissipate in a matter of minutes. Whereas if they're walking in a wooded environment with trees and brush, that scent can be collected in the vegetation. It might last a few more hours, maybe a day or two, but I would say probably the max would be about 48 to 72 hours in optimal conditions where live scent would still be in an area that would be viable for the dog to be able to pick.
So they had 48 to 72 hours. So the time for that's long gone. So whatever they did in that time, whatever it was, didn't lead to anywhere.
Up and actually follow where that scent goes.
Again, the first, 48 to 72 hours so critical. Maybe the reason why we're not seeing a lot of canines out right now, and maybe the reason why we may see different canines coming out, in the near future. And to that end, to the search efforts, again, as we talk about parallel search efforts, a search for Nancy alive, a search for Nancy maybe not alive. Tell me about the plan. Like, what is the overall strategy? Grid searches, line searches, regional. I mean, we've got this news about a neighboring county going out with the signal sniffer, but technically, how does it work?
So if we transition into 2 investigations, certainly her being alive has been going on for 4 weeks. So let's say if I'm called on this case or a similar case that, all right, we're going to consider the person is no longer alive. How I approach this is literally going back to ground zero, starting over where the person was last confirmed to have been seen, in this case at her home, start there and then work our way out. Because if you think about it, from day one, we've been looking for Miss Guthrie alive. So with the anticipation that she would be visible and she would be found and things of that sort. Let's just say theorize now we're looking for Miss Guthrie that maybe she's not alive. Maybe she's concealed in some way. So that's why when I work these cases, and I'm a coordinator for a cold case unit here in Georgia, that we all start from ground zero where that person was last seen, whether it was 4 weeks ago or 40 years ago. We're going to start there. I just worked a case here in Atlanta, a 30-year-old cold case, and the dogs found evidence in the garage where this person was confirmed killed, that we found evidence, and that case has been reopened even after 30 years. And I would approach this case the same way. Start at her home.
Yeah, rather than a signal sniffer, how about an aroma enhancer? I veto for it to be called an aroma enhancer, not a signal sniffer.
Work our way out, and then go to other areas such as where the signal is. Again, start there at ground zero and work our way out from there.
Well, Tracy, if Mrs. Guthrie was killed in her home, if that is one of the possibilities, wouldn't a cadaver dog be able to tell right away that that happened?
So I think the terminology there is that the dogs can't tell us if somebody's been killed or not. They can simply tell us if there's human remains sent. So we, as the human investigators, have to determine, all right, is this person deceased or not because of whatever situation that we have found. The dogs can simply lead us to an area that, quote, warrants further investigation, but they can't tell us if somebody's been killed there or not.
How quickly after someone dies do they give off the scent of human remains?
No one hears her, do they? Ashley Banfield is nodding along like she hears, but we do not hear.
Is the blood that we've learned was found inside the home any different than the scent of, say, decomposition if someone were killed in the home and, say, were there for a few?
So it's only her audio that died. Ashley Banfield's audio is fine.
Minutes or, say, 20 minutes?
Well, that's a great question, Ashley. So when we
there she goes. She's back. We just missed the entire answer, though.
Talk about, again, most people know as cadaver dogs. They are technically human remains detection dogs. And that, again, is the full spectrum from a full-size body to skeleton.
Honestly, that might have been the part that they edited out. So whatever she said in that answer, she might have muted it and then re-uploaded it. That could have been what it was. That segment there, whatever she said.
Remains to everything in between. From the training perspective of dogs, we train them with all different types of human remains, whether it's blood or human remains or bones or whatever that might be. The point being is that when the dogs respond, they're going to respond exactly the same way if it's just blood or if it's a full-size body or a bloody rag or maybe somebody was buried there and removed. Whatever the circumstance.
Correct. I mean, any lip readers in the chat want to do what they can do to see if they can read what she said? Because you're right. That's all she has to do for most people, because most people can't read lips. But thank you very much for this, Heather. I appreciate the super chat and you wishing me happy birthday. Thank you for being such a great member of the flock of black sheep. You've been here for a while now, and we all appreciate you being here. Thank you again.
Might be. And it also could be something totally unrelated to a crime. Let's say somebody cut themselves in the kitchen, had nothing to do with a crime. There's blood there. The dogs are going to respond to that. Another situation that we have come across is if there is a menstruating female that lives inside the home and there's used products in the bathroom garbage can, the dogs would go there and alert to that, just like they would to a dead body, because to them, it's all human remains and they respond exactly the same.
Reminds me of the Anchorman quote when Brick's like, the bears can smell the menstruation.
Same way. So that's when we have to step in and determine, why did they alert here? Is it a crime? Is it not a crime? Is it related to this crime that we're involved with?
It's almost as though it would be more helpful if there weren't blood inside the home. And if a dog alerted to human remains, they would have more of an answer.
Yes, I would agree with that assessment. Yes.
Well, that's fascinating. talk to me about the psychology again, with your background, you know, having a PhD in this, of the high profile nature of this case and the bad guy, with regard to distance, because the sheriff has said that he thinks that, you know, she's close. Other people have posited that, you know, if Nancy's pacemaker separated from her Apple product, well, Dawn was only a couple hours away, and therefore he'd probably have to have done something within a few hours. What are your theories when it comes to how close you think Nancy might be, either alive or dead?
Well, I think the overwhelming agreement here is that this house was targeted by this individual. So that goes into, as investigators, the number one thing we're going to ask is motive. Why did this person, first of all, target this home? And then second of all, why did they take Miss Guthrie away from her home and keep her? So there's a lot of questions that we have, and it's all about motive. And that's very, very important. That's key to figuring that out. So when we think about the bad guy's behavior and why he's doing what he's doing, it gives the appearance of, all right, he targeted this home for a reason. Maybe she surprised him. Maybe he wasn't expecting her to be home, that the home would be vacant. It would be empty during his time, and he was surprised by her. And now he's like, oh no, I was not expecting to take her out of the home because she's going to identify me. And now what do I do next? And so on and so forth. Being the fact that he's targeted this home, I would say, not only from my experience, but also the research I've done, is that most likely he lived close within the area. I can't imagine him living, let's say, 2 hours away and then driving to this home, which I understand is a pretty isolated area, very low crime area, coming to this home, checking it out, and then driving back 2 hours. So I think is a presumption would be, from a psychological perspective and just from my experience and research, that he's likely much closer than 2 hours away. And I think it's also important to note that what people do during nighttime can actually be quite different than what they do in the daytime. So I think that's a factor to consider as well.
Meaning
that most cases at nighttime, their behaviors are much more quick, much more shorter, much more unplanned. So because they can't see what they're doing, meaning if they go out into the desert and they think, all right, if we take somebody out into this desert, they may think they've walked a mile, and most often it's just maybe 40 yards, because our depth perception, and we think.
Again, I can't think of a circumstance where a burglar wants to make sure the person's home. What kind of burglar wants to make sure the person's home? Unless it's an extremely careless, drug-induced burglary. But I don't think that's what this was. This was, to me, a targeted attack that was meant to take Nancy. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense for it to be a burglary, knowing she's home at 2 a.m. and knowing that Nest Cam footage was from another day and saying, oh yeah, we're going to come back at 2 a.m. anyway. Nah, that doesn't make any sense. Targeted, but the question is by who and for what reason? I think punishment and revenge.
I think that we've gone much further than we have is often the case. Because when you're driving at night, it does seem like you're driving much further distance because you can't see exactly what's around you. Whereas the daytime, you have a clear perspective of how far you've driven because you can see around. And then when you park, you can actually go into the woods, be able to determine the distance much more clearly because you can see what you're doing. Whereas nighttime, you cannot. So if we're searching for somebody at night, or we believe that they've done something to somebody at night, almost without exception, we generally find them much closer to the yard, to the road, or to the pathway, or some way of transport, a roadway that maybe they drove in. The person is typically not that much further into the woods.
What about the notion that because this is so high profile, this perpetrator might want to put as much distance between himself and the epicenter of this crime as possible?
I think that's a real possibility here, with the caveat that this is so high profile that the idea that he would take her, 2 hours away without getting caught. And to be frank, Ashley, it's actually quite uncommon for anyone, whether it's a planned abduction of a child.
Good sleuthing work, perhaps. We'll have to check your work on this, Major. Regarding the muted part, it appears she spoke of something the detective may have found in the home regarding scent from evidence that hasn't been released. Reason for the mute. Very well could be. Interesting. Thank you for that. Good sleuthing.
Or a woman to take them and travel many, many miles with them away. It does happen, but when you look at the research and the reality, it's quite rare. And I would say in this case as well, that the idea that he would take her and travel hours and hours away with her, I think is unlikely. At the same time, if he wants to get away from her as far away as possible, I think that is a possibility, but I don't think he would take her with him.
We've covered so many cases where criminals have tried to burn their evidence. Is that something that hinders dogs?
Actually, it does not. So when we search areas, one of the things I'm always looking for is any evidence of burns, whether it's an actual fire pit that might be in the backyard or somewhere else. If I see any possibility that anything's been burned, I have the dogs check it. And from my experience, the dogs have no problem detecting scent even after something's been burned.
And then last question, and that is the pacemaker has changed the metric on this search from so many cases that we've covered before. The pacemaker presumably has metal parts. It's sending the signal, so the signal sniffers have been brought in. But what about just good old-fashioned metal detectors? Is that something that you could foresee being part of this?
Absolutely. Not only just for her pacemaker, but any evidence that might be jewelry, and with all due respect, firearms, or something, any kind of metal that might be part of this criminal investigation. Metal detectors are an excellent tool to use, not only in this case, but actually they're used in many cases.
Dr. Sargent, thank you so much. This has just been remarkable. You're a wealth of information.
Well, thank you, Ashley. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me. And I certainly wish the investigators the best of luck. And thank you again for covering this case so well and so respectfully. And my thoughts and prayers go to the family.
I think we.
So this is actually a pretty good tip here by April. Pro tip: if you're not armed, have a sticker or sign for your door or your yard stating that you're a gun owner and will protect your home. Yeah, that's a good thing to do, because if you're a crook, you're less likely to go into a place that says that, right? So smart move there, April. Thank you for that.
We all feel the same way. Thank you again.
Thank you.
My great thanks to Tracy Sargent. And I'll tell you what, we're going to keep watching how this investigation continues, because like I said, there always has to be a drawdown, but what's that going to look like? And is the FBI, even though they've scaled back much of their operation back to Phoenix and the headquarters, they do say they've got their operators on the ground in Tucson, but how's it going to look? What is this?
So Leica there, in America, we have some cruel ones that say, is there a God? Trespass here and find out. Or, my dog can make it to the fence in 10 seconds. Can you?
task force? How many hours, how many man hours, how many people are they going to put on this? Because they still have thousands of hours of video to go through, from what I understand. And so that's a lot of eyeballs and a lot of real-time video watching to see if there's some clue, any clue that comes through the video. And that's not, even touching on the tips. The 40,000 plus tips that have come into the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department. That is so much material to these are rabbit holes, many of them. Look, some of them are like Looney Tunes and you can write them off pretty quick, but a lot of them have to be investigated and they all have to be looked at, and they all have to be looked at by human eyes, right? And so that's just time. It's just time, and it's gumshoe work. But guys, we were 6 weeks from the Idaho murders to the arrest of Brian Kohberger. Don't lose faith. It can happen. And I particularly have a lot of hope with genetic genealogy. I know it feels like that trail went cold, but believe me when I say this. I think that guy, when he put on his gloves, forgot about the bite light in his mouth. And when he took it out of his mouth with those gloves, his DNA, his saliva was all over those gloves.
So the reason why I don't think she's right about this is because it wasn't even a good sample. How can you do it from not a good sample? That's the part that's most concerning, right? It's one thing, at least, if there was a good sample. But if it wasn't a good sample, what do they expect to get from a not good sample? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong out there.
And he touched something. He got in a door. He touched that bracket for the Ring camera. He touched something else in that house. So I fully believe that it's possible that maybe they'll still find his DNA. And maybe he's not in the offender database, right? CODIS. But with genealogy, I think they can find him. It just sometimes takes weeks, months, and even years. But if they can find the Golden State Killer, maybe they can find this guy too. In the meantime, if you know anything at all, if you think someone acted in a strange way on February 1st or 2nd or 3rd, or even in the weeks ensuing, somebody just didn't act the same way they normally do. They took weird days off. They vanished without a trace. They had no good answer. They behaved weird. They were tense. They were nervous. They were odd. And they maybe look like someone on that Ring cam. If you know anything like that, 1-800-CALL-FBI. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Your tip could break the case wide open. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you so much.
So everyone, make sure you check out Ashley Banfield's channel. She's a friend of the channel. We're going to start calling her a friend of the channel, just like Brian Netton. Now, the question of the hour, though, is where did Maureen say people will be apologizing to Sheriff Nanos? I have not heard that, but where did she say it? I just looked. Megyn Kelly did not upload something about the case today, which makes me wonder, where did Maureen say this? And again, I mean, there wasn't a good thing for CODIS. I don't know if the sample was legit otherwise. I don't think, maybe the genetic genealogy isn't completely out, but I don't know. I am not so sure. And Livin, you're right. It might be bedtime. We have one more chance to keep it real. With MK True Crime, Megyn Kelly's True Crime channel, everyone's favorite, especially Kat's favorite, Megyn Kelly. Now everyone's talking about Corey Richens. Who's that? What's the deal with the Corey Richens case? Livin does like Megyn Kelly, but Kat does not like Megyn Kelly. Maureen's been pillow talking. With who? You know what, Jolly? That's a damn good question. He was here. He did truly give away like $500. So he wasn't lying about that. But I haven't seen him since. She's the one that poisoned her husband with fentanyl? Okay. Maybe we can go over that at a point. Not tonight, but in the future. Yes, Livin does not politically like her. She just superficially likes her. Livin. Now, there's nothing to play of Megyn Kelly. OC Girl mentioned Surviving the Survivor and this other person, Guy, Ron, or something. We can play them tomorrow or the next day because they're long. And this episode's gotten pretty long already. So Crab likes Surviving the Survivor. It's good to know. CC said the FBI would be able to do IgG faster because they have access to records that are not available to other genealogists. She thinks it won't take that long. Okay. I mean, good. I mean, because whatever they have, it's got to be someone that's not in CODIS, right? Because whoever's in CODIS would not also be oh, Crab. That's funny. Because that's the other thing, right? So we don't even know what kind of sample it is they're trying to test for genetic genealogy. It could be anyone's DNA. It could, because touch DNA in particular can be transferred through many people, right? So I don't know. Let's just say this. I'm not holding my breath for genetic genealogy. How about that? And if not, what am I even hanging my hat on in the case? The Nest cams. I'm still waiting for the Nest cam. If they can open up the Nest cams, not the one on the porch, but the other ones, I think that's pretty interesting. And what's the other thing I'm hanging my hat on? Maybe cell phone stuff. Maybe. Anything I'm missing? And what did Rooster say? Oh, have some birthday fun. Oh, that's a good call, Rooster. That is a good call. And yes, thank you very much to all the super chats and to the people liking, commenting, and subscribing. It's been awesome. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, they had walkie-talkies, so that would certainly impact what you would see that night. I mean, the interesting thing I would think of is, did they ever have any contact with other people via cell phone ever? Or did everything they talk, because it was planned, right? So if it's planned, did they only ever talk about it in person? Or did they ever slip up and text? I don't know. I don't know the answer to these questions. Thank you, Major Solace. Thank you for your lip reading skills. I think that was pretty interesting. Now, thank you, Jolly. And thank you, LS. Okay, and that's a good thing to know too. CC, the genetic expert, says CC has also said a sample might not be good for CODIS, but still be viable for IgG. I guess time will tell, right? Happy 3-3 indeed, Sarah. Yeah, this case is bonkers, and I'm heartened that even though the Iran conflict is here, people are still paying attention to the case. I wasn't sure if that was going to happen, but it's happening for now. So we shall see what's going on. You got it, Erica. I'm glad to provide a happy space for you all. It's fun times. Nowhere else I'd rather be. So with that, everybody, make sure you like the video on your way out here. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Don't be bashful. You can talk to the flock of black sheep here whenever you want. The spirit animals are foxes and the shadow, the night owl. Don't forget him. And I'm here almost every night. We'll see about tomorrow. All right, guys. Thank you very much, Teresa. Thank you, Jolly. Oh, got a plot twist. Good night, George. Thank you, Erica. I hope you do, Erica. Come on back. Thank you, Susan. Good question, Wings of Creation. Jack, I might be live late tomorrow, but definitely Thursday or definitely Wednesday. Because if today's Tuesday, maybe Tuesday, but definitely Wednesday. You have a good night, Miss Kim. Which video, Wings of Creation? Are you referring to Sheriff Nanos, Wings of Creation? Thank you very much, Italian. I appreciate the birthday wishes. Have a great night, Kat. Have a good night, Crab. Good night, No Hype. That's always a good day, then, isn't it? And a souk. You got it, in a souk. Have a good night, Bad Mama. And everyone else. Over and out, everybody. Good night, Heather. Thank you, Kat, from across the pond.